Now here's a trick. Instead of putting the box grater vertically on top of a plate, put it horizontally, with no plate underneath, of course. This way you won't risk scraping your knuckles because only your fingertips will eventually touch the grater when you reach the end of the process. Also, it gives the grater more stability, when otherwise you'd have to balance the grater or even hold it in the air with the other hand. When you're done, or when there's just too much grated stuff on the bottom wall of the grater, simply turn it on its side to pour the contents into the bowl or plate. Flowers in a vase would stay fresher for longer if not for the bacteria that breed in the water. Since copper has some antibacterial properties, dropping a penny into the water will help keep the microbes at bay and let you enjoy your flowers for that little bit longer. An easy way to check if your bed linen has dried completely is to put a small mirror in between the layers for about 5 minutes. If the mirror has steamed up when you pick it up, it means the sheets are still a bit damp. Let them dry until the mirror stops getting cloudy. A damp bed is a lovely breeding ground for fungi and bacteria. Okay, I'm in. If you have a not very healthy habit of eating in front of your computer, you'll be surprised at how much crumbs and grime there is inside your keyboard. Now, you can just turn it over and shake it vigorously, of course, but that's not very good for any piece of tech, you know. So instead, take a Post-it note and run its sticky part over the keyboard. It will collect the little pieces of trash like magic. Even a better way to do it, though, is to take a slime and stick it to the keyboard, then take it away, squeeze it, and stick again in another part. The slime will fill the entire space between the keys, and its sticky properties will let it gather every little bit of garbage. Separating egg yolks from whites is easier using a plastic bottle. Break the necessary number of eggs into a bowl, and then take an empty plastic bottle and squeeze it. Hold the bottle over the yolk and release. It'll pull in air and the yolk together, leaving the white in the bowl. Repeat with the rest of the yolks and you're done. And that's no yolk. If you're tired of spitting out the stones when eating cherries or want to make a cherry pie, push the stones out with a straw. Also, many garlic presses have a special tool on their handle that can be used exactly for that. Cleaning a blender can be a nuisance if you do it manually. Instead, fill it with hot water and add some liquid soap or detergent, then run it for about 10 seconds. Rinse it afterwards, and it's clean. Plaster walls can crumble, flake, and spread dust all over the floor when you hammer nails into it. Cut a strip of masking tape and stick it to the place you want to hammer a nail in. The tape won't let the plaster crack and crumble, leaving the hole neat and clean. Small scratches and dents on wooden furniture can be removed with some toothpaste or a walnut. For toothpaste, rub a pea-sized amount of it into the scratch until it's gone, then wipe the leftovers with a damp cloth. For a walnut, take a half of that brain-shaped nut and rub it into the dent. Then rub the area with your fingers and buff it with a soft cloth. This will help the wood absorb the oil from the nut, making the scratch sealed and gone. The sticky residue on jars left after you remove the stickers won't be easily removed by water and detergent. So, take some vegetable oil instead. Soak a cotton pad in it and wipe the sticky surface. Let it sit for a while and then wash the oil away together with the residue. If you can't comfortably reach the wick of a candle with a lighter, take a stick of spaghetti. Light up its end and you'll get a burning stick that's easy to use for hard-to-reach places. Now, next time your razor blade's getting dull, try rubbing it backwards on a pair of jeans for regular upkeep. Not while you're wearing them, of course. Make sure you keep the blades dry, too, or even kept in mineral oil. That'll stop them from rusting. Keep all those jelly, ketchup, peanut butter, and mayo fresher for longer in your fridge by turning the contents upside down. This creates a partial vacuum inside the container, helping prevent mold growth. Storing ice cream upside down will prevent freezer burn, too. To bring your permanent marker back to life, simply put a few drops of rubbing alcohol into the felt material inside and shake. Once the felt absorbs the rubbing alcohol for a couple of minutes, the marker will be almost as good as new. Now, don't keep throwing away lettuce that goes black too quickly. Covering it with a dry paper towel and then placing it in an airtight container will help it keep fresher for much longer. This goes for any leafy greens you've got leftovers of. That sharpish bit sticking out of the cap of your favorite cream is there for a reason. These tubes are usually sealed with foil, so unless you love breaking your nails trying to open them, just flip the cap over and push. Your bobby pins might not stay in place if the grooves aren't facing the right way. They should always be on the bottom, close to your head. Still coming loose? Well, put a squeeze of hairspray right onto the bobby pin before you put it in your hair. Now, your Cotton Rounds pack has those strings on it, so you can hang it on a handy hook in the bathroom. But there's no need to loosen and tighten it back up every time. Check out the bottom of the pack. It has a perforated line. Tear it open carefully, and you're good to go. 2 zips too much? Maybe, but they come in handy as a clever anti-theft device. Just lock them together. Now no one can open your backpack. Don't have a lock on you? You can also tie them together with some string or even just a paper clip. Anything to slow those pickpockets down. That tiny little button on the back of a shirt collar is used to hold your tie in place. Hey, you don't want your tie trying to escape back there. Shoe manufacturers care about their customers, so most running shoes now have a special anti-blister system pre-installed. Sounds intense, but it's basically just that extra hole on top of your sneakers. Make a loop with the extra hole, inserting the lace backward. Cross your laces and put them through the loops. Now pull the laces down to lock your foot in place. Now run. Yeah, go ahead. Car headrests are all about comfort, and detachable headrests are all about safety. If you pull the headrest out, you'll see 2 sturdy metal bars. If you ever get locked or trapped in your car, you can use the bars to smash the window and get out. If you've got some pesky parsley stuck in your teeth, try this tip. It can be hard to get it out with loose floss. You need more tension, so just tie it in a knot. It's not an accident that soy sauce bottles have 2 spouts. The sauce is liquid and it flows out of the bottle pretty easily once you turn it over. Most Asian food lovers have spilled it at least once in a lifetime. That's why nowadays, restaurants prefer serving soy sauce in special bottles that have 2 spouts. This design allows you to control when and how much sauce will come out. Just put your finger on one spout when you pour the sauce through another. If you press your finger tightly to the spout, the sauce will stop flowing, and if you remove your finger, it'll flow again. And don't forget to ask your server, "Hey, wasabi!" Alright. A hair straightener is an excellent tool, not only for treating your natural curls, but also for fixing crumpled money or documents. You can also use a regular iron for this purpose. Just make sure you don't turn on steaming mode, otherwise there's a risk of damaging the paper. Hair bands are good not only for getting your hair done, but also to open a glass jar with canned food. Your hands might slip on the tightly closed lid, and if you don't open the can from the first attempt, your palms tend to get sweaty, making the task virtually impossible. So put a hairband on the lid to fix your hand and make your grasp stronger. A simple rubber band will do as well. Now, it's time to take my sweaty palms and go.
Okay, I know it's kind of cold to the touch, especially on a freezing winter's day, but did you know that brass doorknobs actually serve a purpose apart from looking classy and shiny? Since it's a copper alloy, brass has antimicrobial properties. That means it can help get rid of harmful germs and bacteria, sometimes in up to 2 hours. In high-traffic areas, that's all the more useful, but since brass is much costlier than other metals like nickel and steel, you barely see these types of doorknobs anymore nowadays. Speaking of lovely multi-purpose items, most screwdrivers have a tiny little secret of their own. They can sometimes be slid through a wrench so that they can be used to create more torque when twisting, not to mention the uses when it comes to bolts in hard-to-reach places. There's a reason why buttons on women's shirts are for the left-handed, and it has nothing to do with fashion. This practice dates back to the times when chambermaids were helping ladies dress themselves, and it was easier for them to perform their job with this orientation. Having the buttons placed as such indicated a sign of wealth, so it's easy to imagine why the practice carried on, even though most people dress themselves nowadays. Next time you receive a package in your mail, take a look at your box cutter. If it features some diagonal lines on the blade, you're in for a little design perk. Turns out that these are blades that snap off. Continuously cutting cardboard can dull the sharp edge of the blade. To help prevent the need to buy a brand new box cutter, the top segment along the next line can be broken off to reach a new sharp edge. To do this, check out the small hole at the base of the tool. sometimes called the blade snapper. The people that first came up with this brilliant invention were engineers inspired by the way chocolate bars are segmented. Hold on a minute, don't throw away the cardboard package just yet. Most likely, you'll have some silica gel packets somewhere at the bottom of the box. Since this gel is basically a drying tool, it gathers up the moisture out of its environment, so you can store these packets for further occasions. Whether you'll need to dry out your phone or some other electrical object, you can place them in a container next to the silica gel to reduce the damage. You don't have to be a mechanic to know when a standard car tire needs replacing, since they come equipped with a neat indicator. Take a closer look, and you'll see that treads within the tire are a bunch of rubber notches. When the treads are evened out with the perpendicular bars, it's a sign you need to book an appointment with your local car service, since most likely the tires have lost most of their traction and may not be safe for driving any longer. The upper corners of a car windshield feature textured black dots melted into the glass edges. This neat add-on isn't there for design purposes. It's called frit glazing, which means that a special type of ceramic paint is added to the window for protecting its sealant from UV rays. It also conceals and creates a coarser surface for the adhesive used to set the window in place. Whenever you're up for a drive, check out if there's a small tab under your car's rearview mirror. Bet you didn't know it's there to help switch the mirror from daytime to nighttime views. It uses a prismatic glass technology to blur the reflection and reduce the glare of headlights behind you in traffic. People came up with these manually tilted mirrors in the 1930s, but they became standard somewhere in the 1970s. While you're in the car, check out the headrests, as you most likely don't know that they carry a little disguised purpose. Of course, they're adjustable to accommodate passengers of any height so that they get the proper support for their heads and necks. The hidden feature is that they are detachable and come with two very solid metal bars. Should you ever find yourself stuck in a car and need to make a fast getaway, these bars come in handy to crack out the car windows. So you're out for a drive and you're suddenly out of gas. What I'm about to describe sounds more like a meme than an actual situation bound to happen. But what if you're in such a hurry that you accidentally drive off with the gas nozzle still in the tank? Well, the nozzles have been designed to prevent any hazards from happening, rest assured. They feature a breakaway device that will allow the hose to separate when taken out with enough force. Initially designed in the early 20th century to be worn exclusively by basketball players, sneakers soon became one of those fashion fundamentals similar to jeans and leather jackets. If you take a closer look at them, you'll see they have two extra holes on the side, similar to the shoelace holes. They're manufactured as such not only to provide extra ventilation, but to allow people to get extra creative with their laces when wearing the shoes. Admit it, you've always thought that chopsticks are merged at the end for the sole purpose of keeping them together until you're ready to dig into your meal. That may or may not be the whole truth. Under a more detailed inspection, the wooden tools feature a square-shaped end. Chopsticks manufactured like this date back to an old Japanese traditional design, which can help with breaking the ends easily. The separated end can then be used as a resting block for the chopsticks to keep it more sanitized in hopes it can be used again, since they won't be touching the table or any other surface. Women's bikes have a special design which, surprisingly, has a historical and fashionable purpose. The lower frame is for the most part meant to make up for the generally shorter height of ladies, compared to that of the average gentleman. While that is the case for handlebars and saddles, the overall frame is lower for an additional purpose. Way back when women wore long skirts and dresses all day, every day they needed to make sure their outfits wouldn't get caught in the frame. That's how we came up with a lower-framed bicycle, perfectly made for women and their needs at the time. The fact that toothpastes are multicolored is not just a nice perk to make dental hygiene more fun. There's a secret meaning related to each of the colors, which dates back to the 1970s. In those days, people grew more and more interested in their oral health care, and as such, they were looking for products which could do more than merely clean their teeth. One company was the pioneer in that regard, adding mouthwash to its toothpaste, meaning the blue strip. They later added on the red strip, meant to feature ingredients which helped with gum care. Speaking of toothpaste, check the cap next time you open a new tube. You may be in for a little surprise. There's a pointed cone shape inside the cap, so you can puncture the seal of the toothpaste without cutting yourself or ruining your manicure. Not to mention, it's more hygienic since you won't be able to transfer germs or other bacteria into the product itself. On the subject of bathroom countertop items, toothbrushes come with a neat add-on hidden in the bristle patterns. Apart from making the toothbrush look cooler, they also do come with a practical purpose. Most toothbrushes come with a pattern of blue bristles intertwined with white ones. The blue dye is meant to fade out, signaling the time when you need to replace your toothbrush. Dentists say that toothbrushes should be replaced every 3 to 4 months, but it does serve as a great reminder in case you forget. Still love playing with Lego? Don't judge. Hey, it's a great hobby for all ages. Notice there's a hole on top of the Lego heads? Behold, you're looking at a safety feature that the people at Lego designed to prevent choking hazards. The most dangerous issue should a person swallow any of these pieces is the blocking of the airways. Designing a hole inside the Lego head helps the air to flow freely through the piece until it can be removed safely. We're now used to all sorts of modern light bulbs, some tubular, some shaped like diamonds, and some even twisted altogether. Historically, light bulbs were round and the initial shape served a purpose in itself. It was mainly connected to the fact that glass bulbs were hand-blown, which gave them the round shape to begin with. The hidden practical reason was that the light bulb filament needed to be at the same distance from every surface of the glass sphere. The easiest way to achieve this was to make the glass in the shape of a globe.
You just spent the entire morning running errands up and down the street, and you finally stop to treat yourself to a cup of coffee. You enter the nearest coffee shop, place your order, and notice that actually you really need to use the bathroom. It's a regular-looking public one with multiple stalls. As you pick yours, the one in the middle, you get inside and your mind starts to wander. Why on earth do bathroom doors have a half-inch gap between the door and the lock? And why on earth do they have a huge gap between the door and the floor? Can we have a drum roll for this moment, please? Well, my friend, there is not only one specific reason why public bathroom doors have so many gaps in them, but rather several. Public toilets are designed to make people spend as little time there as possible. You aren't supposed to feel comfortable or at home. So the design would have to reflect this notion. Here come the gaps. In some bathrooms, gaps are so big that users may even feel self-conscious about doing their business out of preoccupation that the rest of the people standing in line will see them. Then there's the matter of pricing. Making custom doors can be a heavy burden for the people building public toilets. This would mean understanding exact measurements so that doors would always fit the mold of the stalls it's supposed to be installed into. Now, not all the gaps in public bathrooms are necessarily the same size. They may vary, even if this variation is small and often unnoticeable. So, these gaps actually help to reduce the margins of errors and to turn production more cost-effective for the people financing them. In case a door comes wider or more narrow than it should, the gap regulates the differences and allows for their installation anyway. There is also the case of air circulation. The last thing you want to do in a public bathroom is to trap odors. So you need a little space under and between the doors to allow the air to flow. Finally, the gaps are a big safety measure. It can always allow for people on the outside to see if someone inside a stall isn't feeling too okay and maybe needs some help. And what about that extra hole in the upper part of the sink? It has a name and everything, the overflow hole, and it's designed to keep the sink from flooding. So, in case someone forgets and keeps the faucet going for too long, or the sink gets clogged and water can't drain down from the main drain hole, the overflow hole comes in to save the day. Let's say it buys you a little time before you have the entire bathroom floor flooded. Have you ever noticed how satisfying closing the door of a car can be? Car manufacturers devote a great deal of time to designing these sounds. Studies have shown that they create a perceived sense of quality in the buyer. It all begins with the primary material. While older cars used to be made with heavier materials, car doors nowadays are produced with lighter tin, which can make a rather unpleasant metallic sound once you shut them closed. So, car companies employ sound engineers to ensure that there is the exact amount of foam, mats, and tin in a car's composition to make the most comforting sound possible. And what about those tiny dots on the top of your car's front window? The pattern of these little black dots minimizes distractions for your eyes. This black part, also known as frit, normally gets warmer than the clear parts, which prevents the windshield from deforming. And no, the tab under your rearview mirror is not made only for the purpose of hanging fluffy dice or aromatic-pleasing air fresheners. It's actually a switch that allows you to adjust the position of the mirror depending on the time of day. Flip it one way and it's the daytime driving mode. Flip the other and you're ready to drive safely during nighttime as it tones down the glare coming from headlights of the cars behind you. Next time you head out to the supermarket, make sure to keep this in mind. In case you don't have a coin to unlock these shopping carts, there is a well-kept secret that can help you out. If you have your house keys on you, check for a rounded key head. If you happen to find one, try using it to unlock the cart. It should fit perfectly in there, replacing the need to carry coins around. Because, if we're being honest, who still has them? Elevators. If you want to ride them on your terms, and your terms only, make sure to try something out. Most elevators have a secret button combination you can use to skip all the other selected floors and go directly to the one of your choosing. This might work out, especially on those days when you've pressed 13, but you wanted to press 33. On most elevators, this works once you simultaneously press the closed door button together with your floor number. This should help you get to your floor without stopping. Some elevators require you to double press the selected floor numbers, as double pressing will often cancel the previously made request. While other elevators require you to hold the open door button and then double press the buttons of the floors you'd like to cancel. Now, to stay out of trouble, it's best not to cancel the floors of the other people in the elevator. They won't take it kindly. Also keep in mind that there are elevators that might not have this function. Now, for honey lovers out there, go ahead and raise your hand. If your pot of golden honey is crystallized, know that it is actually a good sign. Crystallized honey means that it hasn't been pasteurized, which means better product quality. With a decrease in temperature, the natural ingredient of honey, also known as glucose, will make it crystallize. Now, try making the best of it. To add some texture to your oatmeal or toast, add a layer of crystallized honey and enjoy nature's sugar. And if you don't like crystallized honey, plop it in the microwave for a minute or two. Ah, winter and fall. You know what this means, right? Sweater weather. But there's nothing more annoying than wearing your beautiful wool sweater and itching yourself all the way through it. Actually, I can be more annoying than that, but let's talk about itchy sweaters. To keep this from happening again, here's the secret. Turn your sweater inside out and soak it in cold water. Add 2 or 3 tablespoons of vinegar and let it sit for a while. Then, drain the water. Now, while the sweater is still wet, massage a generous amount of hair conditioner into the fibers of the wool. After letting it soak in the hair conditioner for about 30 minutes, gently press the excess water out of the wool and leave it to dry flat on a towel. There you go! No more itchy sweater. Any fast food restaurant you go to will hand out small paper cups for customers to fill with their ketchup, mustard, or barbecue sauce. But if you're eating some chicken nuggets or trying to dip your burger into the cup, there's always that bit of sauce that seems impossible to reach. Next time, try unfolding the cup. It'll turn into a small paper plate, and this way you'll get all the ketchup you poured in the first place. Padlocks used in outdoor environments should be cleaned and lubricated every 3 months. Regular lubrication will help prevent padlocks from freezing in cold weather conditions. Look for the tiny hole on the bottom of the lock. Then pour oil into it, and there you go. It opens again. One thing we often neglect is a point in an ointment cap. These pointy surfaces were designed to help us break the tinfoil protection of the ointment tube. You just turn the cap over and break the ointment seal with its own cap, and there you go. After a long day of work, all you really need to do is a bubble bath. You turn on the hot water and let it run for a few minutes. You might even light a candle and pour some essential oils into the water. Then, in comes the liquid soap. You stir the water until the entire surface of the tub water is crammed with bubbles and make your way in. The bubbles in a bubble bath have a fundamental primary function. Their job is to preserve the water's temperature, just so you can have warm water for longer. Do you have sweaty feet? Weird question, I know. But if you're one of these people, here's some good news. All is not lost. Try putting a dry tea bag inside your shoes and storing it in a dry place for a while. The tea bags will absorb the humidity and the smell off the soles of your shoes. So here I am thinking, shouldn't we have learned these things in school? Well, either way, if you learned something new today, make sure to tell us about it in the comments below. Now, can you honestly tell me you have never used your phone while driving? I know, me too. But we both know that it can be dangerous. To help with this, some newer cars have a special feature called a heads-up display. This option shows important driving information in front of you, like speed and directions, so you don't have to look away from the road. It's like a floating screen on the road in front of you. This can help you drive safer and avoid getting a ticket for going too fast. Not all cars are so modern, so to drive safely, you need to put your phone away. Thankfully, some cars have special places for your phone while you're focused on the road. One specific 2021 model, Chrysler Pacifica, has a feature where the second row of seats can be folded down into the floor. It's good for carrying big items, but when the seats are up, these areas are good for storing things out of sight. Just remember to check and clean them out every once in a while because they can become magnets for all sorts of knickknacks, like French fries or wet swimsuits that will surely start to smell at one point. Keep some cleaning supplies in your car just in case. Are you a science fiction fan? I have some good news for you then. Turns out that flying cars may be closer to us than we think. And it's not just because they look cool. Manufacturers are looking into developing such vehicles for practical reasons too. For starters, our standard roads are getting pretty congested as time goes by. We'll need some other means of transportation in the future to be able to cope with a large number of vehicles. You can find loads of flying car concepts online for all preferences. There's one that looks like a giant drone, and another one like a mini airplane. The simplest designs just took a car and put wings on it. Some cars will light up a snowflake on the dashboard every now and then. In case you're wondering, it's a sensor, and a pretty important one too. It shows the exterior ambient temperature. It gets activated when there's a road warning due to a sharp drop in temperature. It may sometimes even come with an audio warning or a message on your dashboard to inform you that the roads may be getting icy, so you can either adapt the speed or change to the appropriate tires if necessary. Cars these days aren't just adapted for the cold season. They come with cool features to help out during the summer months too. I'm talking about those neat sun visors. Check your car to see if it has this added bonus feature. We know they twist to help the driver out even when they're not driving directly toward sunlight. Some visors can also extend, so they can provide shade to a larger area. If yours can't extend, there's a simple solution. Buy a sun visor extender. You can even find them online. They work by being attached to your existing sun visors or the windows for better shade coverage and visibility. Now, your car might have another hidden feature. Well, it's technically not in the car, but in its tires. These days, some cars come equipped with foam-filled tires. They were created to fix the problem of air-filled ones that often went flat. Why? Well, because foam-filled tires have many of the same benefits as air-filled tires without the danger of leaks. Regular air-filled tires can sometimes lose air over time, even if there hasn't been any damage. In most cars with this feature, the tires are not completely filled with either foam or air. They have a mix of both. A bonus of these modern tires is that they make the cars quieter. Generally, electric cars make less noise, but because of that foam, they end up being as quiet as a cat. Some people like the fact that they're quiet, while others prefer that classic screeching or rumbling that vehicles make. But even people who like the sound of regular engines might like the quietness of these new models because they are still very fast. Hey, I drive one and it's fun. You might have stumbled upon a button called AEB. It stands for Automatic Emergency Braking, and it's a feature that uses sensors to detect if a collision is going to happen really soon. When activated, it will automatically apply the brakes to try and prevent something bad from happening or make it less severe. There are two types of AEB, one that only works at slow speeds and one that works at all speeds. If the car can't be stopped completely, the AEB system will try to slow it down as much as possible to reduce the impact. Many cars now have systems that can warn you if someone is walking in front of you and can even automatically stop the vehicle to prevent an accident. These systems use special sensors that can also detect bicycles and animals. However, a study found that these systems don't always work well, especially at night. Even if your car comes equipped with this added feature, it's crucial to always pay attention while driving and not rely solely on these systems. A little thing called Lane Centering Assist helps you stay in the middle of your lane when you're driving on the highway. It's not a replacement for paying attention to the road either, but it can help guide you through gentle curves. You'll still be in control of the car and can turn the wheel if you want to go in a different direction. Some systems give you a lot of feedback, while others are more subtle. Lane Centering Assist can't handle sharp turns, and in most cars doesn't work if you don't have the cruise control on. What's also cool about this feature is that if it senses you've removed your hands from the wheel, it'll give you the warning to return to the correct driving position. A lot of accidents can happen when you're reversing your car, like out of the supermarket parking lot. Parking sensors can help prevent these things from happening by using radar or sound to detect things that the driver might not see from his position. These sensors will make a noise or show a warning on the car screen to let the driver know something is there, like another car or a person passing by. If you're planning to have a road trip, you know how hard it is to adapt to various speed limits throughout the country. Traffic sign recognition is a technology that can help with that. It allows you to know what the speed limit is on the road you're driving on. It uses a camera to take pictures of traffic signs and display them on a screen in your car. This can be helpful if the signs are hard to see or if you miss them while driving. Some cars with this technology can even change their speed automatically based on the signs they see. This technology is mostly found in luxury cars, but it is becoming more common in other types of cars too. The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety has made studies that show up to 6,000 drivers per year have bad accidents simply because they were too tired. Sure, I would like my car to come with built-in coffee makers or showers to keep me awake on those long days driving, but some do have systems that can tell when a driver is getting kinda snoozy. These systems monitor the movements you make while in the driver's seat. It looks at things like how you turn the steering wheel around and move the car. If it senses you're a bit too tired to move on, it'll make a noise and show a message on the dashboard urging you to take a break. Some of these systems even show a picture of a coffee cup to remind you to stop at the next gas station for a refreshing beverage. Might save your life, too. Think you're ready to see the world in a whole new way? I hope so, because I'm about to blow your mind. Have you ever noticed those plastic lines along the side of your phone? They're the oddly spaced stripes that seem to have no purpose. In reality, though, they're probably your phone's most important feature, because without them, your device would be little more than a smart paperweight. They are antenna lines, allowing your phone to remain wireless. Electromagnetic waves carrying phone, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi signals cannot pass through metal, which makes up most of the phone's outer case. And the glass panel up front also slows those waves down. It's like there's a bouncer at the door, refusing to let most signals in or out of the phone. Hey, I've been to that nightclub. Anyway, that means no phone calls, no text, and no late-night delivery when you have nothing in the fridge except one egg and something that might have once been lasagna. Those little strips of plastic allow the same electromagnetic waves to come and go as they please. This is why you can call a friend, order a ride, or play an online matching game until 3 in the morning. Hey, don't you have to get up early for work? When you do finally stumble out of bed, make sure you're using this next item correctly to avoid a potentially upsetting situation. The zipper, originally patented as the clasp locker in 1851, didn't become widely used until the 1930s. Now they're on everything, from bags to jackets to jeans. And they're not perfect. They get stuck. They pinch the skin. And we all know what happens if the zipper on our pants refuses to stay up. Well, luckily, this can be avoided. Most zippers have a locking mechanism built right in. When the zip is facing down and flat against the teeth, the lock is engaged and the zipper remains closed. If only I had known that back in school. What about those metal rivets most jeans have? They're more than a design choice. They were added to protect areas that experience the most strain, such as pocket corners and the base of the fly. The rivets hold the fabric together, even when it's being stretched and pulled during work. And since we're talking about clothing, have you ever wondered about that tiny fifth pocket at the front of your jeans? Well, first of all, it isn't really a fifth pocket. Originally, jeans were made with 4 pockets, including that little one in front. The fifth pocket is actually the one on the back left, which was only added to jeans in 1901. The little pocket, though, was important a long time ago. Cowboys needed to keep their pocket watches safe while riding out on the range. Yeehaw! That pocket kept the watches protected but also handy. And then people became so used to it that jeans just look weird without one. Another strange holdout from a bygone day is that stitched V on the front of some sweatshirts. What if I told you that those exact stitches hold the whole shirt together? Well, then I would be lying, and I never do that. But back in the 1940s, this V was very useful. First, the V stitch was initially used to add a patch of stretchy ribbed fabric to the shirt so that it could fit over our big heads more easily. Secondly, these shirts were specifically designed for sports, so the V included an additional piece of fabric to absorb the sweat that would build up during a game or a workout. As stretchy fabric became readily available and better at handling perspiration, the V lost its traditional value. But, like the tiny jean pocket, it has continued as a decorative feature, a reminder of our big-headed ancestors who apparently only sweated just below the chin. But moving on. One place you won't find many people sweating is the golf course. You will see quite a few fashion disasters, sure, but sweat? Not so much. Golf was invented around the 16th century in Scotland. Back then, the ball was perfectly round and smooth. Over time, the ball would become dented from use, and at some point, golfers discovered that these imperfections actually helped the ball fly farther. Dimples were added on purpose in the 1900s, when it was found out that they reduced the aerodynamic drag that slowed down a smoother ball, and the dimples made the balls easier to control. And no, not all golf balls are created equal. The number of dimples can range from 300 to 500, with one company producing a ball with over 1,000 little dents. Wow, a little overboard, eh? Need a quick, refreshing drink after a round of golf? Juice boxes, created back in 1963, are very convenient. But why do they have these large triangular flaps on top? Their lifted flaps act as hand grips. This stops you from accidentally squeezing a full box and spilling juice all over the place, like onto your favorite t-shirt or the new couch. Now, when you're done golfing, grab your backpack with that leather diamond patch with 2 vertical openings. It's commonly referred to as a lash tab, but I much prefer its other name, pig snout. I mean, it certainly looks like one. You typically find these pig snouts on packs used by hikers and climbers. The diamond is a place to tie any extra gear that they need to carry, like boots, cooking equipment, or sleeping bags. But these lash tabs are also becoming more common on smaller backpacks. They're a nod to the past, but just as useful. Attach your running shoes to one next time you head to the gym, keeping those stinky things away from the rest of your clothes. Now, I'm sure you're a great driver, but for years, you've probably been neglecting an important safety feature right in front of your eyes. That rear-view mirror has a small tab located at the bottom center. It's high time you started using it. When this is flipped forward, the mirror is in day mode, providing a strong reflection of everything behind the car. Flipping the tab backward changes the whole situation to night mode. This reduces the brightness of the headlights behind you, resulting in a safer drive. Another cool car tip? If you're borrowing from a friend, using a rental, or have the memory of a houseplant, cars feature a handy indicator to let you know which side the gas tank is on. It's a tiny arrow next to the pump icon that points either left or right. Where the arrow points, that's where the gas tank can be found. And that's one less thing you have to remember. Okay, off to the grocery store. A regular shopping cart has a useful feature you might have been overlooking. Carts usually include loops in the metal frame, often behind the child seat. As you bag your groceries, hang the ones with fragile or squishable items, like eggs or bread, on these loops. Now they're out of harm's way when you toss that giant watermelon into the cart. Later, when you're unloading your groceries, do yourself a favor and grab that box of plastic wrap. You know, the one that is impossible to unroll without the whole tube coming out while the plastic wrap sticks to itself. Check out either end of the box, and you'll see small tabs that you are supposed to push in. This helps to hold the roll in place so you can easily pull the plastic wrap out without all the fuss. Aluminum foil boxes also have these tabs. Now that you can finally use that plastic wrap, try this appealing hack. Separate that bunch of bananas and cover each stem in some plastic wrap. The stem releases a gas called ethylene. When it reaches the rest of the banana, it encourages the fruit to ripen and turn black. If you wrap the stems, your bananas will last longer. And since you're in your kitchen, you might as well warm up that coffee from this morning. Just remove the gross skin that has formed on top. Don't eat it. Of course, as you open the microwave, you'll notice that the glass in the door has a strange black mesh inside. This mesh is designed to stop any radiation from passing through the glass. Like the electromagnetic waves we discussed earlier, radiation can't pass through metal. That mesh keeps it all safely inside to help you heat up your food. Thank you, science. Oh, and about that cup of coffee, did you know that the handle size can help you determine how much the mug actually holds? Let your fingers guide you. If you can fit 2 fingers into the handle, then the mug holds 8 ounces or 1 measuring cup of liquid. 3 fingers, 10 ounces or 1 1/4 cups. 4 fingers, 12 ounces or 1 1/2 cups. Pretty cool, huh? Now, don't blame that little lump on your computer cable for getting stuck somewhere for the umpteenth time. The cylinder, shapes and colors may vary, actually prevents interference from other signals, like those your phone emits. A lack of privacy in public bathrooms, I mean those large gaps beneath where normal doors tend to be, is there for a reason. This way, people do their business faster and there are fewer lines. Also, if something goes wrong, it's easy to find a person who needs help. In London, there are some poles that kind of look like street lamps, but there are no bulbs. Well, their official name is stink pipes, and they're a thing of the past now, but they used to come in handy back in the 19th century. These hollow poles would vent away the air and explosive gases with bad smells to prevent, shall we say, unwanted consequences. Blank pages in the books aren't actually for the author's signature. It's all about the manufacturing process. Books are printed on large sheets, so one sheet can fit in 4 pages. If a book has an odd quantity of printed pages, chances are you'll get a blank one for notes. Now, originally, golf balls were smooth, but some time ago, players noticed that overused balls with damages flew better than brand new ones. At some point, they started producing balls with dimples. Windshield black dots help disperse the sun glaring right into your eyes. This sort of frame keeps the UV rays away, so it serves as sunglasses for your car. The tab on the rearview mirror has obvious functions. It holds your air freshener, that cute toy. But in reality, it was meant to be a tumbler between day and night mode. It reduces the glare from the car behind you, so you can't be blinded. Colored dots on chip bags aren't as useful as those on the windshield, but they have a purpose too. Manufacturers need them to control the package color and show what ink color was used on the package. No big deal. Your microwave has a silent mode. Seriously. If those beeps drive you nuts, press 1 or 0 and hold. It might work. Also, there is sometimes a silent button you kept ignoring all this time. Anyway, There are no two identical microwaves, so a manual should come in handy. Grocery cart loops have more functions than you think. You don't want to put your fancy white jacket in a cart next to carrots and Coke. This little hook-like thingy helps organize all the stuff in your cart better, so you can enjoy your shopping trip. Another thingy we often neglect is a point on an ointment cap. Most tubes are usually sealed with plastic film or foil, and opening it with your fingernails isn't the best idea. A point easily opens even the most safely sealed tube. Automatic lip liners and eye pencils have a sharpener installed in the package. The lid on the back part of the pencil doesn't only reveal the color, you can pull it out and sharpen up the product. Toothpicks come in different varieties, and one of them is a bit puzzling. Sometimes they have several grooves. The first one is weak, so it's easy to break the toothpick in two. The smaller section with one more groove can be used as a stand to avoid the contact with the table. You can make a makeshift stand for disposable chopsticks. They have a sort of lump at one side before you split the pair. So next time you have a sushi dinner, try breaking off that lump instead of regular splitting. When you want to take a sushi break, just place the stick on this stand. Yeah, you've heard before that a drawer beneath your oven is there for keeping the food warm if the guests are running late. Here's one more hidden function. You can slow cook on lower temperatures in that drawer too. All the bottles used to be of the same green color once. But later it was discovered that brown ones are way better at blocking UV light. Say no more. Stickers on fruit seem to provide zero information about the product. But if you look closer, you'll find some numbers that can tell you more. A 5-digit number where the first number is 9 is a good sign. You're about to buy an organic product. A 4-digit number starting with a 3 or 4 means it was conventionally farmed, and if the number starts with an 8 and there are 5 digits, well, it's best to leave it on the shelf. A dollar has its secrets too. A large letter with a rim shows which bank is responsible for issuing this bill. There are 12 banks distributing currency. For example, the L says it was printed in San Francisco. Now, some cups look like they're chipped on the bottom, but they're produced this way. In fact, these dimples are supposed to keep the cup in place on wet surfaces, and it doesn't let excess water accumulate while it's in a dishwasher. Small hollows in a chocolate box are designed for chocolate lovers. Press the closest deepening to the chocolate that you want to grab, and it'll jump out of the box right into your hand. Bath foam can be more than just a pleasant smell. It also has a sort of thermoregulatory function. The bubbles save water heat, so you can enjoy your bath a little longer. Disclaimer: it works for acrylic bathtubs only. Those made of metal lose heat fast, no matter how much foam you make. A good doorknob is one that's made of brass, bronze, or some copper alloys. These metals have an anti-germ effect. Bacteria spread way slower on them. They also get rid of germs pretty fast, within a couple of hours. Nope, it doesn't mean you don't have to wash your hands. If you pour milk or juice right onto your t-shirt every single time, you're probably not doing it right. Try pouring it from the other side of the carton. It sloshes less and is easier to control. There's only one way you can store your peanut butter right. If you place it the regular way, it may get a bit solid before long. The trick is to store it upside down so the oils don't stay on the bottom all the time and distribute evenly. A dinner jacket has small pockets above regular ones, and they're not useless. They're called ticket pockets, and were designed so that gentlemen wearing such jackets could easily access the tickets and show them on a train. They could also store cash and other small loose items in a super convenient way. Now, whatever coffee shop you go to, all the disposable cups look exactly the same, only the logo changes. The secret here is the special shape that allows you to enjoy your drink easily. The top is always wider, which allows it to accommodate your nose while you're drinking, and the bottom is always narrower, so that anyone can hold it easier, even if the hand is quite small. This width difference also allows the cups to stack. Triangular flaps on small juice cartons can help control unwanted spillage. If you flip them and use them as handles for the carton, you won't press the package, so the juice won't be squeezed uncontrollably. Now, if you have a mason jar and a blender with a screw on top, this secret is life-changing. You can actually put a mason jar directly onto the blender and make any shake you want without having to wash the blender jar. Just don't put your device on max. There's one trick you can use to make salt and pepper come out smoothly. Grab a container with pepper or salt, turn it upside down. There are ridges on the bottom of the shaker. Now grab the second container and rub those ridges together. The vibrations will make the product literally flow out. Most headphones, both wired and wireless, have little holes. They're needed to ensure good sound. The air circulates through those holes, which is important for the sound quality. Stick sachets were designed smartly. No need to tear one of its edges. The right way is to tear them down the middle. Now, you may say it's not a big difference, but at least there's less mess with those torn paper bits. If 2 zips for one section seem a bit too much for you, it's probably time you started using them wisely. It's a great pickpocket proof. You can put on a small lock on those zippers and make sure no one but you can open your backpack. Hide the key in the 5th pocket on your jeans that was originally designed to keep watches safe. So, now you know.
A label on your panties digging into your most sensitive spots is definitely not the best feeling. Sure, you can cut it off, but often that just leaves even sharper corners that can be more annoying. But what if you've been cutting those labels wrong this whole time? Check it out. On the left, the label is sewn into the seam, while on the right, it's just hanging on by a couple of threads. Just snip those threads, and voila! It's like the label was never even there. Plus, with this little hack, you can always pick panties in the store that are guaranteed to be comfy. If you've traveled to Europe recently, you may have noticed how nasty the bottle caps have become. Yeah, according to the law, they now have to scratch your nose. They have to be attached right to the bottle. If these bottles annoy you too, try this. Once you open the bottle, rotate the cap 90 degrees and pull until one of the plastic connections breaks. And finally, turn the bottle until the cap touches your chin, not your nose, and drink. You've been using the colander in the wrong way all this time. This smart kitchen device has a hidden function. The traditional way of draining noodles involves dumping boiled noodles into a colander, right? But if your colander is about the same size as your pot, try this instead. Place the colander on top of the pot with the noodles, like a lid, and drain the water out. This method is faster and less messy, and it keeps your noodles in the pot where they belong. Toilet plungers and sink plungers are quite different, and the toilet version has a handy rubber flap called a flange that pops out from the cup. This flange fits snugly over toilet drains, giving you strong suction to tackle stubborn clogs. While a sink plunger won't help with toilet troubles, the toilet plunger can work on your sink or tub. Just make sure to keep that flap tucked inside the cup. And don't forget to give it a thorough clean with bleach before switching from toilet to sink use. You definitely don't want to mix things up. If you still work in an office, next time you print out something, make sure to check out this stapler built right into the printer. It can staple all the documents that fit in the slot at the same time. By the way, it's not something new. Such printers have been around since the 90s. Why buy a ruler and spend your hard-earned dollars if you can simply use a dollar bill to measure whatever you want? Only as long as this whatever is somewhere around 6 inches. A dollar bill is just about this size. Even though many people are sure that those tiny holes on the bottom left side of your iPhone are the speaker, they're actually a microphone. And speaking of iPhones, if you've got one of the latest models and your phone is out of juice but there's no socket to be found nearby, here's a nifty trick. Grab a double-ended charger cord and connect it to another iPhone 15. Boom! Your phone gets a little power boost. I bet you've noticed that the hook on a tape measure is a little loose. Well, that's intentional. The hook moves just enough to account for its own thickness, ensuring both inside and outside measurements are accurate. So if you ever thought it was broken, nope, it's just doing its job. As for the hole at the end, it's replacing the tape on the edge of a nail to get measurements from odd spots. The pockets on new suits are sewn shut to keep the jacket's shape during transportation and display. Of course, you can unpick them to use the pockets, but you need to be careful with what you put there. Anything heavy can easily distort the suit's shape. The important thing, though, is to remember to cut the threads holding the back vents together for better movement and comfort. Oh, and remember to cut those tacky stitches that fasten your new coat's vent, that flap on the back. Now, that sink squeegee thing actually hides a big secret. It can store water. Many sink squeegees have tiny holes that allow water to stay inside. But why would we need that water? Oh, you can release it as you squeegee, which will help you rinse the sink as you clean it. Here's a travel tip that will help you understand U.S. highways. In the U.S., highways with even numbers run east-west, and those with odd numbers run north-south. If a highway number starts with an odd digit, it's a spur, which means it doesn't reconnect to the main highway. If it starts with an even digit, it's a loop around or through a city that eventually reconnects with the main highway. And finally, numbers divisible by 5 are major highways meant for cross-country travel. Your iPhone camera can also translate laundry symbols, identify plants, and even recognize some bird species. It's like having a mini encyclopedia in your pocket. Another trick, when using the markup feature while editing your photos, you might want to highlight a part of a picture. Put a circle around the needed area and keep your finger pressed down at the end of the stroke. Voila! Instead of a misshapen circle, you get a perfect one. It also works for squares, triangles, and stars. Barilla, probably the most famous pasta in the world, has teamed up with Spotify to create playlists that match the cooking time for different pasta shapes. Just start the playlist when you drop the pasta into boiling water. And when the music stops, your pasta is ready. Toasters have crumb trays at the bottom that you can and should clean regularly. Just slide it out and dump the crumbs. It's an easy way to keep your toaster clean and working well. You can use Google Maps to share your location in real time. Just tap your account icon, select Location Sharing, and choose how long to share. Your friends can track your progress and be ready when you arrive. You can also save your parking location by clicking the blue dot. Do you know that the knobs on some ovens have calibration screws on the back? You can adjust them to get more accurate temperature control. It'll definitely help you avoid overcooking or undercooking your meals. In non-prepaid gas stations in the US, try pressing Enter before swiping your debit or credit card. It'll take you to the prepaid screen, and you can enter the amount you need manually. If you're drinking outside on a windy day, place some coins in an empty cup, and then put the cup you're drinking from inside the first one. The weight of the coins will help you keep your drink from getting blown over. Simple, but effective. Once you've peeled your potato, you might spot some tiny divots, known as eyes, that still have some skin on them. Many peelers come with a handy scoop designed to tackle these little guys. Just take the scoop, dig in, and pop them out. Easy peasy. Your favorite potato recipe will be totally eye-free in no time. A cell phone's camera can help you to figure out whether your remote is working. The camera is sensitive to infrared, so you just need to turn it on and point the remote at the camera while pressing the remote's buttons. You'll see the LED flashing in response. If you spot nothing, something is definitely wrong with the remote. Bonus fact here: white vinegar isn't just for cooking, it's also the real laundry hero. If you add it to your laundry, it'll take out all the bad smells from your clothes. The amount to add can be anywhere from a splash to a cup during the wash. And don't worry about the vinegar smell. It washes away completely, leaving your clothes fresh. It's also great for removing hard water buildup.
If you've ever gotten bored while waiting in a car, like I have, You might have played around with a headrest. Yep, you can pull them off, and they'll come right off relatively easily. It seems useless at first, but that's something you'll want to do if you're ever trapped in a car and need to break a window to get out, like I do. Even a box of aluminum foil has its secret. On the side of the box, you can see a small tab you can push in. So simple, but that's what actually holds the roll of foil in place. This tab makes it way easier to unroll a sheet and tear it off without any frustration. Ever wondered why gripping a certain tool, handle, or even a pen kind of feels more secure when it's coated with a rubbery material? The keratin of the outer layer of the human skin is rough and stiff at a small scale. So let's say you have a polished metal or glass which is stiff but also a smooth and impenetrable surface. When you encounter that, the actual contact area is small, as is the friction at the beginning. Your sweat pores secrete moisture, which is why the keratin gets hydrated and becomes softer. Because of that, it requires many seconds for the contact area to increase to the same value it reaches almost right away with some soft materials like rubber. This mechanism might be used by our tactile senses when we want to identify materials. Now, the pom-poms on beanies and other hats have their purpose, and it's not just to look cute and fluffy. Well, at least they did have a purpose. One of the theories says French sailors used to wear hats with pom-poms so they wouldn't hurt their heads on the ship when the weather got rough. Yup, the ceilings of the ship were really low. When the waves were too big, bang, you could easily hit your head on the ceiling. So the pom-poms came in handy. Now they're just a cute addition to our winter caps. That mysterious drawer under the oven, the one where you keep all your kitchen gear you just don't know where else to put? Well, you used it well in that case, but the drawer was originally designed for keeping your meals warm, at least until you're ready to serve them. And that space under your lower cabinets that protrudes slightly and can't be lifted, this area is also called a toe kick. It's the reason why you can stand closer to the counter while cooking. Also, the doors of the cabinets are off the ground, so they'll swing over your toes. The cabinet under the sink isn't for storage either. Maybe that's where you keep your cleaning products, but its real purpose is to give you access if your sinks leak and you need to do some plumbing work. That weird little hole at the top of a lollipop stick you can see after finishing a candy is not a whistle. It has something to do with the manufacturing process. When pouring hot molten caramel into a mold, some of it will seep into this mysterious hole and harden. This way, the candy will stay on the stick and won't fall off. Keyboard letters aren't just randomly arranged the way they are. The first keyboard ever made belonged to the typewriter. Typists eventually got so good at their job, they started typing too quickly. So the key arms would get cross-wired at some point and stuck. That's why manufacturers had to make the order of keys more random to intentionally slow down typists so they could keep the machine running. Do you like to let those brushes on the side of the escalators in malls polish your shoes? Believe it or not, that's not their main gig. The bristles are there for safety. People used to get their bags and clothes stuck in those escalators when they would stand too close to the sides. These nylon bristles kind of play with people's minds, and they keep their feet away from the escalator skirt panels and avoid accidents. Most people assume bobby pins have curves for fashion, which is why they mostly place it in their hair with the wavy side up. But those little waves are actually there to catch the underlying bulk of hair and grip the pin into place. So the wavy side should go down. You've probably noticed measuring tapes mostly come with a metal stub that ends with a small slot. If your hands are full of stuff, simply hang the slot on a nail for measurement. If you take a closer look, you'll see the stub is a little bit serrated on one side. This means you can use it to mark the points, so you don't even need a pencil. If you spend a lot of time in planes, you've probably noticed that little hole located at the bottom of the window. Nothing to be nervous about. It's what keeps us safe while flying high. It's something called a bleed hole. You can see right there in the middle of the pane of the 3 window panes that actually protect passengers from the outside pressure. This hole may be tiny, but it takes all that pressure off the outer one. The hole also gradually exposes it to cabin pressure, which helps with fixing pressure imbalances on the windows, if there are any. There's a number 57 staring at you from the middle of the Heinz ketchup bottle forever. According to the company, only 11% of people are aware the number really has nothing to do with the product label. It's actually a sweet spot where you can tap to get the sauce onto the plate. So, next time you want some ketchup, there's no need to bang the bottom off. Just hit this spot. Grooves on the bottom of cups are there to make cleaning them in the dishwasher more convenient. When you place your cups upside down, these grooves will allow the water to flow rather than stagnate. This way, the water won't spill onto your feet when you take the cups out. The grooves are there to allow cool air to flow beneath the cup too. They also keep cups from cracking when they heat up after you pour hot beverages in. You probably noticed that little dot next to the camera on an iPhone and probably thought it was a flash. Nope, not a flash, but a microphone in charge of catching sounds when you're using the back camera. Next time you're looking for a quick bite and decide for fries at McDonald's, check that bendable flap near the top of the box. Some like to bend it towards the fries. That way you can cover your fries up and keep them warm. But if you're not that patient, you can flip the flap backward and basically turn it into a makeshift plate for your fries. Just bend it down firmly enough. You don't want it to spring back up and spread the sauce all over you. Take it from me, it's messy. In the 1970s, people didn't want toothpaste just to keep their mouths healthy, but also to freshen their breath. Aquafresh decided to answer that call, so they added a blue stripe to their product. Since consumers started paying more attention to their teeth and gums, the company added a third red stripe to their paste. The paste now has 3 functions: freshening, cleaning, and plaque control. And yes, solid white toothpaste can offer the same benefits, but brands continue to add stripes to their paste anyway. Speaking of toothpaste, do you know those colors on the bottom of tubes? The colors don't mean anything in particular. They're there to help in the manufacturing by telling light sensors where the end of the tube is. Thanks to it, the machine can cut and seal the tube properly. Hand sanitizers are commonplace nowadays, and you can apply them in many other ways besides just cleaning your hands. It also works great when you want to remove stains from your clothes. Sanitizer breaks up oily, greasy spillages and does a great job as a degreaser. You can even use it as a deodorant if you get caught out on a hot day. You just spent the entire morning running errands up and down the street, and you finally stop to treat yourself to a cup of coffee. You enter the nearest coffee shop, place your order, and notice that actually you really need to use the bathroom. It's a regular-looking public one with multiple stalls. As you pick yours, the one in the middle, you get inside and your mind starts to wander. Why on earth do bathroom doors have a half-inch gap between the door and the lock? And why on earth do they have a huge gap between the door and the floor? Can we have a drum roll for this moment, please? Well, my friend, there is not only one specific reason why public bathroom doors have so many gaps in them, but rather several. Public toilets are designed to make people spend as little time there as possible. You aren't supposed to feel comfortable or at home. So the design would have to reflect this notion. Here come the gaps. In some bathrooms, gaps are so big that users may even feel self-conscious about doing their business out of preoccupation that the rest of the people standing in line will see them. Then there's the matter of pricing. Making custom doors can be a heavy burden for the people building public toilets. This would mean understanding exact measurements so that doors would always fit the mold of the stalls it's supposed to be installed into. Now, not all the gaps in public bathrooms are necessarily the same size. They may vary, even if this variation is small and often unnoticeable. So, these gaps actually help to reduce the margins of errors and to turn production more cost-effective for the people financing them. In case a door comes wider or more narrow than it should, the gap regulates the differences and allows for their installation anyway. There is also the case of air circulation. The last thing you want to do in a public bathroom is to trap odors. So you need a little space under and between the doors to allow the air to flow. Finally, the gaps are a big safety measure. It can always allow for people on the outside to see if someone inside a stall isn't feeling too okay and maybe needs some help. And what about that extra hole in the upper part of the sink? It has a name and everything, the overflow hole, and it's designed to keep the sink from flooding. So, in case someone forgets and keeps the faucet going for too long, or the sink gets clogged and water can't drain down from the main drain hole, the overflow hole comes in to save the day. Let's say it buys you a little time before you have the entire bathroom floor flooded. Have you ever noticed how satisfying closing the door of a car can be? Car manufacturers devote a great deal of time to designing these sounds. Studies have shown that they create a perceived sense of quality in the buyer. It all begins with the primary material. While older cars used to be made with heavier materials, car doors nowadays are produced with lighter tin, which can make a rather unpleasant metallic sound once you shut them closed. So, car companies employ sound engineers to ensure that there is the exact amount of foam, mats, and tin in a car's composition to make the most comforting sound possible. And what about those tiny dots on the top of your car's front window? The pattern of these little black dots minimizes distractions for your eyes. This black part, also known as frit, normally gets warmer than the clear parts, which prevents the windshield from deforming. And no, the tab under your rearview mirror is not made only for the purpose of hanging fluffy dice or aromatic-pleasing air fresheners. It's actually a switch that allows you to adjust the position of the mirror depending on the time of day. Flip it one way and it's the daytime driving mode. Flip the other and you're ready to drive safely during nighttime as it tones down the glare coming from headlights of the cars behind you. Next time you head out to the supermarket, make sure to keep this in mind. In case you don't have a coin to unlock these shopping carts, there is a well-kept secret that can help you out. If you have your house keys on you, check for a rounded key head. If you happen to find one, try using it to unlock the cart. It should fit perfectly in there, replacing the need to carry coins around. Because, if we're being honest, who still has them? Elevators. If you want to ride them on your terms, and your terms only, make sure to try something out. Most elevators have a secret button combination you can use to skip all the other selected floors and go directly to the one of your choosing. This might work out, especially on those days when you've pressed 13, but you wanted to press 33. On most elevators, this works once you simultaneously press the closed door button together with your floor number. This should help you get to your floor without stopping. Some elevators require you to double press the selected floor numbers, as double pressing will often cancel the previously made request. While other elevators require you to hold the open door button and then double press the buttons of the floors you'd like to cancel. Now, to stay out of trouble, it's best not to cancel the floors of the other people in the elevator. They won't take it kindly. Also keep in mind that there are elevators that might not have this function. Now, for honey lovers out there, go ahead and raise your hand. If your pot of golden honey is crystallized, know that it is actually a good sign. Crystallized honey means that it hasn't been pasteurized, which means better product quality. With a decrease in temperature, the natural ingredient of honey, also known as glucose, will make it crystallize. Now, try making the best of it. To add some texture to your oatmeal or toast, add a layer of crystallized honey and enjoy nature's sugar. And if you don't like crystallized honey, plop it in the microwave for a minute or two. Ah, winter and fall. You know what this means, right? Sweater weather. But there's nothing more annoying than wearing your beautiful wool sweater and itching yourself all the way through it. Actually, I can be more annoying than that, but let's talk about itchy sweaters. To keep this from happening again, here's the secret. Turn your sweater inside out and soak it in cold water. Add 2 or 3 tablespoons of vinegar and let it sit for a while. Then, drain the water. Now, while the sweater is still wet, massage a generous amount of hair conditioner into the fibers of the wool. After letting it soak in the hair conditioner for about 30 minutes, gently press the excess water out of the wool and leave it to dry flat on a towel. There you go! No more itchy sweater. Any fast food restaurant you go to will hand out small paper cups for customers to fill with their ketchup, mustard, or barbecue sauce. But if you're eating some chicken nuggets or trying to dip your burger into the cup, there's always that bit of sauce that seems impossible to reach. Next time, try unfolding the cup. It'll turn into a small paper plate, and this way you'll get all the ketchup you poured in the first place. Padlocks used in outdoor environments should be cleaned and lubricated every 3 months. Regular lubrication will help prevent padlocks from freezing in cold weather conditions. Look for the tiny hole on the bottom of the lock. Then pour oil into it, and there you go, it opens again. One thing we often neglect is a point in an ointment cap. These pointy surfaces were designed to help us break the tinfoil protection of the ointment tube. You just turn the cap over and break the ointment seal with its own cap, and there you go. After a long day of work, all you really need to do is a bubble bath. You turn on the hot water and let it run for a few minutes. You might even light a candle and pour some essential oils into the water. Then, in comes the liquid soap. You stir the water until the entire surface of the tub water is crammed with bubbles and make your way in. The bubbles in a bubble bath have a fundamental primary function. Their job is to preserve the water's temperature, just so you can have warm water for longer. Do you have sweaty feet? Weird question, I know. But if you're one of these people, here's some good news. All is not lost. Try putting a dry tea bag inside your shoes and storing it in a dry place for a while. The tea bags will absorb the humidity and the smell off the soles of your shoes. So here I am thinking, shouldn't we have learned these things in school? Well, either way, if you learned something new today, make sure to tell us about it in the comments below.
You've probably noticed that train and bus seats are covered in fabrics with weird patterns. Have any idea why? Well, they use these patterns to cover any germs and stains on the seats. The brighter the color and the more patterned it is, the harder it will be for passengers to notice any stains and get grossed out. Also, the patterns are usually so ugly that no one even wants to look at them for long enough to spot any stains. So yeah, the pattern is there to make you look away, and if you look, to make it less noticeable. No bus will ever have plain white seats, that's a guarantee. Just a few more bus-related questions to answer, like why don't buses have seatbelts? Buses are overall way safer than cars because they were designed this way. The idea behind this is called compartmentalization, meaning that the seats have high backs that absorb energy. The seats are also placed close to one another, so there's less space to move in case of an impact. Also, on a bus, the passengers sit pretty high off the ground, and in case of a collision, the force is absorbed by the bus's deck and not by the people inside. On top of that, a bus is way heavier than most other vehicles, and even if there is a collision, it distributes the force way differently than a regular car. Due to its weight, a lot of force is absorbed, and bus passengers don't experience much crush force. So, small and light buses that can't distribute the force as well actually do require seatbelts. And we have to remember that buses drive slowly, which minimizes the risk of an accident overall. We all know that school buses are yellow, but why? It's for visibility reasons. Yellow is one of the most easily recognized colors, and for a human eye, yellow is even more visible than, say, red. So, school buses are yellow to make them more distinctive. Also, yellow is visible in the dark, in fog, and on a rainy day. Actually, the color of the bus isn't really a true yellow. It also has a hint of orange. This shade even has an official name, National School Bus Glossy Yellow. By the way, taxicabs are yellow for the same reason, to be more visible in any weather conditions. Also, buses have huge steering wheels, and I finally learned why. Buses are bigger than regular cars, and they're also way heavier, so it's harder to turn a bus around, and way more strength is required to do so than when you drive a car. A bigger steering wheel that has a bigger radius allows the driver to turn the vehicle more easily, and it requires less force than if the wheel were smaller. Trucks have big steering wheels for the same reason. But have you seen those stuffed toys that some trucks have attached in front of them? Turns out, it's just a way for truck drivers to customize their vehicles. It's like a mascot that speaks about the truck or the driver. It's also a way to communicate to the world that the truck driver isn't all scary and tough, but a soft and harmless person that you shouldn't be afraid of. At least, that's how some truck drivers explain it. In Asia, there's also a belief that road accidents are caused by ghosts, and hanging toys are a way to distract the ghosts from causing harm to the truck. Ever been on a road trip? If you're not the driver, all you have to do is just sit in one place and do basically nothing for hours. Doesn't sound like a hard task, but some people find it terribly exhausting, And because of this, they resent road trips. Why do they get so tired? Well, sitting in a car isn't like sitting in a chair. The brain doesn't relax. Instead, it controls everything that's going on, accounting for movements and making sure that you maintain the right posture. Your brain is constantly working, exchanging bits of information with your muscles, so your body is working. Some people get tired because of this. If you aren't doing much, it doesn't mean that your body isn't doing much. Train rides are way more tolerable because trains don't stop or change speeds as often as cars do. So the body is more relaxed, and train trips are way more tolerable for people who aren't fans of road trips. Another mystery is why it's way harder to stand still in the same spot for 30 minutes in comparison to, for example, walking for 30 minutes. Again, it sounds like you're not doing anything when you're standing. So why is it so tiring? Well, standing is a pretty hard task for your body. When standing, the muscles in your legs work very hard to support the mass of your whole body. If you're standing, there are not many muscles working, and only a few of them have to do all the work. When walking, there are more muscles working at the same time, so it's easier. Also, when standing, both of your legs are working without stopping. But when walking, each of them gets a tiny break each time you step using the other leg. Why is it that the same book can have different covers? There are several reasons for this. First, the cover may vary because of the target audience. An edition of a book that is being marketed to older people is usually different from the edition aimed at younger people, with the one for younger people usually being brighter and cuter. The cover can also depend on the country the book is being sold in, trying to attract as many buyers as possible based on the tastes of the population. Next, books vary from edition to edition. At first, a book is printed in hardcover in small quantities to see how it'll do on the market. If the book is a relative success, there is another edition printed, often in trade paperback. The design of the cover is usually updated with every edition. Also, if a book has a movie based on it, there is usually another edition that follows. This edition will take advantage of the movie and use a movie scene as the cover, making it recognizable for people who saw and liked the movie, and encouraging them to buy a copy of the book. Most books are printed on yellowish paper, and few have plain white pages. But why is that? Unless it's a mass-market paperback edition with paper that's the same quality as a newspaper, meaning bad. It's done with good quality paper. Don't let the yellow hue confuse you. It's usually called cream, and it's a preference for any book because it's less tiring on the reader's eyes. The plain white paper is bleached, and it reflects a lot of light, so it can be exhausting to read for a long time. So, that yellowish paper is the best paper, and publishers regularly use it. Another thing about books is those blank pages they often have at the very end. Their number depends on the number of pages in the book. The thing is that books are printed in signature. A signature is a group of pages that printers fold together and cut to make a book. A signature can have a different number of book pages, with the minimum being 4, and then with other numbers divisible by 4. So, a book that is 300 pages long in total will fit in perfectly, and there will be no blank pages left. But if a book needs 303 pages, it'll need an additional signature, and the extra pages will remain blank, often marked with the word notes or with the message, "This page is intentionally left blank," to let the reader know that there's no important information missing. Ever wondered why most doctors have sloppy handwriting? No, there's no class in medical colleges on bad handwriting. The reason why it's so common is that doctors are always in a rush, and they write as fast as possible to keep their momentum, so there's no time to care about writing nicely. Also, keep in mind that you're not the only person who they write a prescription for over the course of a day. Doctors do a lot of paperwork, working for 10 hours straight, and they're just too tired most of the time to give you a properly written note. Have you noticed that most songs, in general, last somewhere between 3 and 4 minutes? Well, originally, songs were being played on a phonograph record player from a vinyl record, which was spinning at 78 revolutions per minute. So, the size of the vinyl record basically determined the length of the song. There were 2 basic record sizes, a 10-inch one, which had room for about 3 minutes of playtime, and a 12-inch, which could fit a 4-minute song. So, at the beginning of the 20th century, if an artist wanted their song played, they couldn't make it longer than that if they wanted to be able to sell a record. Times have changed, but still, Most songs are about 3 to 4 minutes long. The initial reason for sticking to this pattern was also because of radio. If a song was too long, it would either get cut in half or some parts would be left off to make it fit into the 3 to 5 minute radio standard. If an artist wanted the song on the radio, and if they wanted to earn money from it, they'd do their best to make a song that fits the standard, so that the whole piece could be played without alterations. Today, even if there are longer songs, a 3 to 4 minute song is now a tradition that artists typically stick to.
What's hiding inside Coca-Cola cans and regular household batteries? Why do magnets affect breakfast cereals? Do crosswalk buttons actually work, or are they just useless decorations? What does that USB symbol really mean? I'm not sure I know the answers to these and similar questions, but I'm eager to learn the truth together with you. Let's find it out. Coca-Cola cans have a secret few people know about. Here's a Coke can. Let's submerge it in a highly corrosive alkaline solution. The aluminum dissolves due to a process known as hydrolysis, and we can see a plastic liner inside the can. It's made from a polymer or epoxy resin and serves as some kind of a protective barrier between the aluminum walls of the can and the rather acidic soda. Despite a popular myth, household batteries don't actually contain liquid, and if you accidentally cut them open, no toxic liquid will spill. Most of them are dry cell batteries, which are made of electrochemical cells. Those convert chemical energy into electrical energy. Larger batteries often house numerous small cells within them too. Even Tesla vehicle batteries consist of multiple small cells. When combined, they easily provide the necessary voltage. Most toothbrushes have differently colored bristles, but they aren't just pleasing to the eye. Those bristles, often blue, have a functional purpose. They're called toothbrush indicators, and their colors fade as you use the brush. The American Dental Association recommends changing your toothbrush at least 4 times a year. And by getting paler, these bristles help you figure out when it's time to replace your toothbrush. You'll probably agree that there's no better snack than a pack of chips. Some are flat, others have ridges. Is it just aesthetics? Not really. The main purpose of those lines on some kinds of chips is to help with the distribution of spices and seasonings. In other words, all those substances that make your chips taste like cheese are mostly stored inside the lines. Plus, the lines make chips crunchier. Now this one might be a surprise, but some breakfast cereals are magnetic. That's because they're often fortified with iron in the form of a fine powder. Due to the added iron, cereal flakes get attracted to magnets. All this may sound kinda alarming, but in reality, the iron content in the flakes is minimal and doesn't pose any threat to your health. That clear fluid in gel pens is called the ink follower or stopper fluid. The gel in such pens contains pigment particles dissolved in a polymer solution. The main task of the stopper fluid is to be a barrier to prevent the gel from evaporating or leaking out. Without this transparent fluid, your gel pen wouldn't function. The fluid always stays in one position and doesn't get dissolved with the gel. Neither does it move backwards or flow out of the pen. Many pedestrian crosswalk buttons, namely in New York, are placebo buttons. They do literally nothing when you press them. Originally, they were functional after being introduced in 1964, but today, most of them don't affect traffic lights, which are programmed based on the real needs of the traffic flow. Why do such buttons even exist then? It's a simple psychological trick, providing you with an illusion of control. You might have noticed that movie theater seats are almost always red. This choice isn't random, it has strategic importance, which is rooted in visual science. The thing is, red light has a longer wavelength. It means that it's the first color to disappear in low light. It allows the audience to concentrate better on the screen once the movie begins. Such a design choice enhances the viewing experience by minimizing distractions. Speed bumps are crucial for pedestrian safety, but at the same time, they can seriously increase car emissions due to the non-stop acceleration and deceleration they cause. To address this issue, some cities like London are testing fake speed bumps. Those are optical illusions painted on the road. They look raised from a driver's perspective, but in reality, they're flat. Authorities hope that this approach will slow down drivers without having a negative impact on the environment. Soda bottles are always filled in such a way that there's some space between the liquid and the cap. That's because soda contains carbon dioxide. It's a gas that can expand once the bottle's heated. If there's no gap in the bottle, it can break because of the pressure building inside. Also, when you open your drink, the gases go out in the form of bubbles, making the drink overflow. The gap helps with this problem too. The USB symbol, looking like a trident, has always sparked multiple speculations about its origin. One popular idea is that it represents Neptune's trident and symbolizes power and adaptability. But there's also a little bit less exciting theory. A man who claimed to have designed the symbol in the 1980s stated that it was supposed to represent connectivity. The large circle symbolizes a computer, while the attached shapes, the circle, the triangle, and square, stand for different outputs. The design of a tennis racket has a specific feature known as the throat. It's an open space below the head of the racket. This space isn't just for storing balls, it also improves the racket's aerodynamics by letting air pass through. It seriously reduces drag during swings. Speaking of tennis courts are usually built with a north-south orientation. It helps minimize the impact of the sun's position during the game, ensuring that neither player has the sun directly in their eyes. Look closely at a tram's overhead lines, and you'll see that its contact wires zigzag back and forth instead of going in a straight line. That's because all trams have pantographs attached to their roofs. The upper part of the pantograph is gradually worn down by the overhead wire and eventually needs to be replaced. To wear it down evenly, the wire is not installed strictly along the tram's path, but in zigzag patterns. As the tram moves, the pantograph slides along the wire, and it wears down evenly. Those cone-shaped water cooler cups? Their shape is intentionally designed to prevent users from setting the cups down. This allows employees to minimize the risk of spilling water on their desks around various electronic devices. Plus, less material is used to produce cone-shaped cups, which makes the process less wasteful and more cost-effective. It also kinda supports sustainability by encouraging people to drink their water quickly and dispose of their cups immediately after. Most suitcases have 2 zipper pulls, and it serves several purposes. First of all, if one zipper fails, the other can keep the suitcase closed. Even better, having 2 zippers allows you to have easier access to small sections of your suitcase without having to open it entirely. And finally, when you have 2 zippers, you can connect them with a padlock for increased security. Some plastic milk containers have dents on their sides. These dents serve several purposes. When milk spoils, it usually causes swelling and high-pressure buildup inside the container. That's when the dent pops out and doesn't let the jug blow up. Plus, if you decide to freeze the milk, it will expand like any other fluid. And then again, the indentation will pop out and prevent the container from breaking inside your freezer. If you ever had a problem figuring out why fake pockets exist, you need to hear this. The main reason is that if a clothing item has a specific cut or shape, pockets may spoil it. They can alter the item's shape either in the warehouse or already on the retail rack. The solution? Getting rid of the pockets in key areas. Plus, fake pockets are obviously cheaper, and they don't get stretched out. The thermos wasn't actually invented to keep your coffee warm. It was made by a Scottish scientist who wanted a safe place to keep his chemicals at a stable temperature. So, he took 2 bottles, put the smaller one inside the bigger bottle, and vacuumed out the air between them.
Hey there! Quick question, what is the capital of Japan? If you said Tokyo, then you got it right. Tokyo is one of the most modern and colorful cities in Japan. But for over 1,000 years, Kyoto occupied that place. Yeah, I know, the names are similar, but while Tokyo is the futuristic center of Japan, Kyoto is one of the most traditional and historical cities in Japan. It's known as Japan's cultural capital. Let's play a game of Spot the Difference. Here are two photos. The first one is from Tokyo, and the second one is from Kyoto. Can you tell what is the main difference between both? Hold that thought for one more second. Here are two more pictures. The first one is from Asakusa, a neighborhood in Tokyo, while the second one is from Kyoto. What would you say is the main difference here? Well, you can probably guess where I'm headed. If you didn't figure it out, I'll spell it out for you. The main difference is in the colors. If you've ever had a chance to travel around a bit, you probably noticed how cities have certain color themes. Like Rome is terracotta, and Paris varies in tones of gray and sepia. Looking at these images, one can see that Tokyo is bright, electric, and looks even a bit chaotic. And Kyoto is monochromatic and gives the impression of being calmer and more peaceful. It's fascinating to see that what causes this distinction between both cities has to do with a certain landscape law. You see, in 2007, Kyoto passed a new law prohibiting colorful street signs. The law also wanted to standardize overall constructions to make the city look more homogeneous. Since Kyoto was Japan's capital city for such an extended period of time, it was built using traditional feng shui architecture and principles. That's why so many of the buildings have that traditional Asian shape to them, the one with the curvy ceiling, like you see in the Mulan movie. Sure, this style is very far from what modern architects are doing today. If you take a look at Tokyo, you'd see glass skyscrapers rather than these old buildings. But that's all part of a bigger plan, set in motion by something called the Miyako Landscape Guidelines. The municipality's main argument to pass the law was that Kyoto was losing its unique landscape due to Japan's modernization. If Kyoto were to follow in Japan's footsteps and build humongous skyscrapers, citizens would lose their view of the three mountains that surround the city. And let's face it, nobody would want that to happen. Plus, it's nice that you can go to different cities in Japan and notice that they are unique in their own way. If the landscape law was to be effective in all of Japan, we wouldn't get to see architectural marvels such as the Tokyo Sky Tree and the Asahi Flame Building. Now take a look at the Akihabara district in Tokyo. It is known as one of Japan's most modern neighborhoods. It's filled with top-notch technology at every corner. And yes, it's also filled with signs everywhere. If we compare it with Kyoto after the passing of the new law, the first thing that would have to go are the rooftop signs. Oh, and flashing and moving lights are also illegal there now. This Kyoto Starbucks also illustrates what I'm talking about. If you were strolling along the bucolic streets of Kyoto's countryside, searching for a place to get a cappuccino, you'd miss this coffee shop completely. I think we can agree that the traditional Starbucks logo was made to call attention, with that crowned siren-like creature supported by a very green background. In other places in Japan, it still looks like this. But in Kyoto, the brand went above and beyond to respect the new guidelines and produced this beautiful wooden logo and a little plaque that says this building has lattes. Yes, indeed. There are multiple examples like this. In Kyoto, the 7-Eleven doesn't have its traditional red, orange, and green stripes. Its logo was changed to black and white. You can think that's dull, but I think we can agree to disagree. It looks perfect when you look at its surroundings. Oh, and what about McDonald's, the world's most famous burger franchise? It kept its yellow logo, but took the red out of the background. In terms of the color palette allowed, the law uses the Munsell color system to determine which chroma levels are acceptable. Usually, the faded version of strong colors like red, black, green, and so on are accepted. Now, imagine if they adopted a Wes Anderson palette. It would look like a Toy City, that's for sure. At first, vendors and shopkeepers felt disturbed by the new law. They didn't understand why they had to change their branding for the sake of some aesthetic the city was trying to preserve. But with time, they not only came to terms with the new law, but could already see the benefits of it for their brand success. You see, this helped turn Kyoto into an even bigger tourist attraction. Tourists felt like they were traveling in time, sort of. Some tourists even like to dress up in traditional kimonos and walk around like geishas. The municipality also began an award system to compensate the shops and brands that had done their homework well. Of course, the camouflage Starbucks won an award back in 2018, as did Sagawa, a major delivery company in Japan, back in 2012. It's not only shops that needed to adjust to the new guidelines. Things such as vending machines and post offices also needed to be toned down. Again, the idea is to make the city more visually coherent, and they sure help. Now, what happens if you don't follow the rules? Well, the people who chose to ignore the landscape law can spend up to 1 year in jail or pay a huge fine. We can also compare the differences inside Kyoto itself. Around the city center, the landscape law is less strict, so you'll find taller buildings and even bigger and more colorful signs. But as you leave the center and move towards smaller cities in the countryside, the law is much more strict. It's especially strict around the UNESCO heritage sites. In case you're not aware, there are 17 heritage sites in Kyoto. Yep, that's a lot. But that's what makes Kyoto so unique. Now, welcome to the neighborhood of Pontulcho. This neighborhood is a good example of how the landscape law changed the city's mood over the years. Pontulcho is a cute alleyway in Kyoto that spans over several blocks. If you look at this Google Street image from 2009 and this one from 2023, you'll see clear differences. For starters, the huge sign at the entrance of the alleyway is gone. And so are the wires hanging from the tops of the shops. The pavement was redone and the big store signs disappeared. It's much cleaner. At night, the alleyway turned into the perfect spot for atmospheric dining, since its legislation decided to rule over the type of lighting allowed in the neighborhood. This is what it looks like at nighttime. Hey, you fancy grabbing some sushi? I can't help thinking that this landscape law contributed a lot to Japan's minimalist architecture. Although images like these ones in Tokyo are far from the idea we have of this minimalist aesthetic, Kyoto falls right into place with it. How about we take a quick look inside one of these establishments? The Starbucks we mentioned earlier also invested in turning its interior design local. It's the first ever Starbucks where you can drink tea on a tatami floor. You can sit cross-legged, like many Japanese people do, and enjoy a delicious hot beverage. I must say I quite like the new Kyoto. How about you?
In some ways, the United States is a whole different world, totally different from every other place. So let's take a look at what's normal there that baffles people from the outside. One of the first things a foreigner notices when entering the country is flags. American flags everywhere. On buildings like schools and houses, and on clothes like shorts, t-shirts, you name it. Throughout history, Americans have changed 27 flags. The current American flag was only adopted in 1960 and is so far the longest-lasting flag of the country. It wasn't created by the authorities, though. In 1958, there was a contest for a design of the new American flag, and the winning flag was made by a 17-year-old high school student from Ohio. The reason why Americans love their flag so much is national pride. But why not so many countries do the same? Well, some countries avoid displaying them for historical reasons. Other countries only raise the flag on special occasions to highlight the importance of the event. Still, some countries display their flag as often as Americans do. In Denmark, people are quite proud of their flag too. They decorate the winter holiday tree and birthday cakes with them, and you can always find stickers with Danish flags, red and white candles, and other goodies with the flag in a grocery store. People in Sweden are also very much into their flag and have flagpoles everywhere. Now, let's go to a restaurant, shall we? Many things there are very specific to the States. Like, for example, tons of ice in every drink. Turns out there is some history to this preference. America has always had a lot of ice as a resource, since New England's lakes and rivers have a lot of those during winter. Centuries ago, before refrigerators and other helpful cooling machines, that kind of cold resource was very valuable, and the states started exporting ice to other parts of the world. And also, of course, consuming it themselves. They started to put ice in their hot drinks, in contrast to the British, who were always drinking their beverages hot. The ice in the drinks has become an American thing, and it was also considered a rich person's drink. Yep, the ice would also show a person's status. Of course, with time, when refrigerators appeared, ice became available to everyone, and Americans started to add it to their drinks commonly. The habit remained, but also, ice drinks are very refreshing, which is especially important in the hot south of the country. But if you come from abroad and don't want your drink freezing cold, always specify it to the waiter. The next striking thing is the huge portions that are served, and there is a reason for that too. It wasn't always like this, but in the second half of the last century, due to pesticides and fertilizers, farmers started to be able to grow more food than they used to. The government caught on, subsidizing them to grow even more food. So, the amount of available food increased. Over time, companies started to increase the sizes of their portions. Why serve less food and get less money if you can serve a bit more and also charge more? That's good for business, and it's a win-win. Customers get more food for just a little bit more money. So, larger portions stuck. Okay, now we need to take a little toilet break. And, surprisingly, there are a lot of foreigners who find American toilets weird. First, what's up with those huge gaps in bathroom stalls? Let's start with the more obvious part, gaps on the bottom of the doors. Those are quite common, even outside the US, and they serve several purposes. First, you can see if there's a person inside without trying to break into an occupied stall. Second, it provides some ventilation and makes it easier to clean the floor in the bathrooms. The gaps on the sides are more questionable. Of course, people on the outside can't see everything going on behind the door, but still, there's not much privacy whatsoever. In most other countries, the gaps are either negligible or non-existent. So what's up with them in America? I did some research. Some sources say that since every inch of material is expensive, wide gaps are made to reduce the costs of bathroom stalls. Other sources say that when people feel exposed like this, they have fewer incentives to do something illegal in public bathrooms. Next observation, American toilets have way more water in their bowls in comparison to, for example, European ones. The reason is that those types of toilets use different flashing systems, and an American one needs more water to flush effectively. In many countries, especially in Asia, most bathrooms have bidets, which are used for after-toilet cleaning, and tourists don't understand why Americans wouldn't adopt those too. After all, if you step in mud, you'll go and wash your foot instead of just wiping it off with a tissue. The same logic works here. Also, it reduces toilet paper usage. So, it's more sustainable and it's environmentally friendly. Some say there's a strong stigma in America around bidets that is extremely hard to overcome. Others say that toilets in the US don't have enough room to install a bidet, so they don't have those, especially if there are other well-known ways. Before we leave the restaurant, we need to tip the waiter. Tipping in the United States is way more common than in most other countries. You're expected to tip any service person who helped you with something. While some kind of tipping exists in some other countries, the extent of it is smaller. And there are also countries like Japan and Denmark where tipping isn't a thing at all. Those countries have minimum wage laws that dictate decent wages employers must pay their workers. This way, the need to pay money to service stuff isn't pushed onto the customers. By the way, here's one more fact about the prices. Probably the craziest thing in the States tourists have to adapt to are prices in stores. The tax isn't included into the displayed price and is added on top while checking out. So people who are short on money can't pre-calculate the price they will have to pay to make sure that they have enough money. But really, why is it so? The main reason behind such a weird policy is transparency. This way, taxpayers know how much tax they pay and can resist raising the tax rate in case it comes on the national agenda. Also, it allows buyers to compare the costs of products across states fairly, since tax rates may differ. So, if the tax isn't included, you compare the actual bread costs between Alabama and Alaska, for example. In some places in America, it's not very easy to get around unless you travel by car. In some regions, there's often no sidewalk taking you to the closest convenience store, or a crosswalk, allowing you to cross the road right in front of the store. The main reason for that is probably the fact that the United States is a big country with vast lands and everything is spread out. Neighborhoods can be scattered around, wide suburban territories quite far away from one another, so that's already far from being walking distance, and sidewalks aren't needed because, yes, no one's walking. Studies show that Spanish or Germans walk at least twice as much as Americans, but in those countries, everything is way closer. And last and not least, you guessed it, the imperial system. It's based on the human body. A foot is an average foot size of a person, so you might think it's quite intuitive for anyone. Well, no. Foreigners are incredibly confused with feet, inches, gallons, and Fahrenheits, and tend to convert it all to the familiar metric system. Well, in this sense, the British are even more confusing. Those guys use both imperial and metric systems. For height, it's mostly feet and inches, but for weight, kilograms. Great Britain used to have the imperial system, but later they were forced to switch to the metric system. So now they're using a combination, whatever helps to be more precise. Trains used to make people mad. During the Victorian era, there was this rumor that the swaying motion of train carriages made passengers, especially men, go a bit crazy, leading to some strange and dangerous behavior. The so-called railway madness was supposedly triggered by the noise of the train. To make things worse, carriages were locked for privacy reasons back then, so people found themselves stuck in tiny spaces with lunatics who could snap at any moment. If you see someone putting ketchup on some car, it doesn't mean you're witnessing them preparing a prank. It means they're just taking care of their car. Yup, it goes great with hamburgers and hot dogs, but it goes even better with cars since it has ingredients that are good at removing rust. Rust occurs when the metal gets exposed to moisture, oxygen, and heat, and due to weather conditions, it's hard to avoid it. When you leave rust for a longer time and don't deal with it, it will continue to degrade the metal. So, you need to get rid of it before your car becomes physically useless. That's when ketchup comes in. Its key ingredient is tomatoes, and they have many nutrients similar to those you can find in oranges and some other citrus fruits. For instance, citric acid can help you remove rust from metal surfaces since it eats through rust. We're not talking about the cars only. You can use it on metallic kitchenwares, furniture parts, jewelry, and rust spots on generally any metallic item. You can combine it with washing soda. It's not quite effective against rust, but when you combine it with ketchup, it'll do the work. Mix these two and apply them to the rusted area. Leave it like that for about half an hour and wash it with a wet cloth or sponge. You can combine ketchup with salt instead, or just apply a lot of it on the rusty area without using any additional ingredients. Ketchup removes tarnish from brass copper too. Put it on brass hardware on doors and cabinets, or some accessories such as bowls and candlesticks for 10 minutes to make it all shine. And also, you don't put it on meat just because of taste. Ketchup breaks down its fibers, which means it makes it more tender. Locking handles as we know them were only invented relatively recently, in 1878. Before that, people had to get pretty inventive to secure their homes. Most folks used a latch string. They'd make a small hole in the door, thread a leather thong or string through it, and then loop it around a wooden bar. Even after doorknobs were invented, only the wealthy could afford a proper lock and key. Vacuum cleaners had a rough start too. The first one was invented in 1901, but it was so huge that it wouldn't fit inside houses. Instead, vacuuming was offered as a mobile service. The machines were parked outside, and long hoses were fed through the windows. And to get to the client's house, these large cleaning machines were actually pulled by horses. Back in the day, animals even used to pull strollers. Yep, with kids inside. The stroller was first developed in 1733 for the daughters and sons of a British nobleman who might have been a bit too lazy to walk with them every day. So, the first model was basically a shell-shaped basket on wheels that could be pulled by a goat or a small pony. This small chariot was cute, but probably not the safest way to get around. Refrigerators also used to be a bit scary. From the late 1800s until 1929, they used toxic gases like ammonia, methyl chloride, and sulfur dioxide to cool things down. People were so concerned about gas leaks that they began leaving their refrigerators in the backyard instead of keeping them in the kitchen. This danger even inspired Albert Einstein to create a new model. In 1926, Einstein and his former student Leo Szilard invented a refrigerator with no moving parts, using safer, environmentally friendly gases to reduce the risk of toxic leaks. But it had one problem. Einstein's refrigerator was less efficient than existing appliances, so it wasn't commercially appealing. If you ever find yourself casually wandering in the forests of Estonia, don't freak out if you see some giant megaphones. These wooden acoustic giants were set 3 hours away from the country's capital by interior architecture students. That's way cooler than the hamster roller coaster I once built for a science fair, I have to admit. More than half of Estonia is covered by woods, and they're pretty proud of this natural wealth. So it's not the first art project of this kind, and there was a winding, elevated pathway and a faceted woodland cabin. The idea of the megaphones is to crank up the natural sounds of a forest and also to serve as a rest spot for hikers. These wooden beauties are large enough to host several people. And hey, if you walk this far into the woodland, you'll be thankful for this. The students were given a task to invent some concepts of a forest library. They built the megaphones off-site and brought them to their permanent spots. They're set in such a way that sounds from 3 directions meet in the center and create a cool, natural surround sound effect. Thankfully, kitchen supplies, including our beloved grills, have come a long way. Back in the 1950s, a metalworker named George Stephen had a brilliant idea while trying to create the perfect steak. Frustrated with flare-ups and uneven cooking, he decided to cut an old ocean buoy in half. This allowed him to control the airflow better, and that's how the Weber Kettle Grill was born, changing backyard barbecues forever. Have you ever used a public bathroom in the summer in your shorts and sandals and got splashed? It happens to the best of us, so no worries. If only there was some solution to this problem. Perhaps a urinal with a small hole so no liquid goes where it shouldn't. Looks pretty yucky and painful to me. An assistant professor at the University of Waterloo, Zhao Pen, and his colleagues came up with a way better solution for this sensitive issue. Their designs were inspired by physics and dogs. When a stream of liquid moves on a solid surface at a shallow angle, the splash is reduced, and the smaller the angle, the fewer splashes you'll see. You can even minimize them to a 0. And when dogs do their business, they lift their hind legs and do it on the vertical surface of a tree or a wall. I don't know if they actually care about it, but this does reduce the splash. Good job, Pluto. Talking about that, here's a fun challenge for your next family gathering. Ask everyone to fold a piece of paper in half, then in half again, and keep going for a total of 7 folds. Spoiler alert, they probably won't succeed. That's because each fold makes the paper thicker and thicker. In fact, if you had a huge sheet of paper and folded it in half 50 times, it would end up being about 62 million miles thick, which is about 2/3 of the way from Earth to the Sun. So yeah, it's impossible. The current record is held by a high school student named Brittany Gallivan, who managed to fold a single piece of paper in half 12 times, and it was a tissue paper. The USB symbol, looking like a trident, has always sparked multiple speculations about its origin. One popular idea is that it represents Neptune's trident and symbolizes power and adaptability. But there's also a little bit less exciting theory. A man who claimed to have designed the symbol in the 1980s stated that it was supposed to represent connectivity. The large circle symbolizes a computer, while the attached shapes, the circle, the triangle, and square, stand for different outputs. Look closely at a tram's overhead lines, and you'll see that its contact wires zigzag back and forth instead of going in a straight line. That's because all trams have pantographs attached to their roofs. The upper part of the pantograph is gradually worn down by the overhead wire and eventually needs to be replaced. To wear it down evenly, the wire is not installed strictly along the tram's path, but in zigzag patterns. As the tram moves, the pantograph slides along the wire, and it wears down evenly. Those cone-shaped water cooler cups? Their shape is intentionally designed to prevent users from setting the cups down. This allows employees to minimize the risk of spilling water on their desks around various electronic devices. Plus, less material is used to produce cone-shaped cups, which makes the process less wasteful and more cost-effective. It also kinda supports sustainability by encouraging people to drink their water quickly and dispose of their cups immediately after. You're probably wearing a YKK product right now. I mean, go check the zipper on your jeans. Yep, that's it. YKK stands for Yoshida Kogyo Kabushiki Kaisha, a Japanese company that makes roughly half of all the zippers in the world, producing over 7 billion zippers each year. Originally called hookless fasteners, they became known as zippers after a pair of rubber boots that could be fastened with a single zip became popular in 1923. The name stuck because of the high-pitched zip sound they make when used. Despite a popular myth, household batteries don't actually contain liquid, and if you accidentally cut them open, no toxic liquid will spill. Most of them are dry cell batteries, which are made of electrochemical cells. Those convert chemical energy into electrical energy. Larger batteries often house numerous small cells within them too. Even Tesla vehicle batteries consist of multiple small cells. When combined, they easily provide the necessary voltage. Did you know that nail polish used to be a status symbol? In ancient Egypt, queens like Nefertiti and Cleopatra were famous for their red nails, while lower-ranking citizens were only allowed to wear pale shades. You'll probably agree that there's no better snack than a pack of chips. Some are flat, others have ridges. Is it just aesthetics? Not really. The main purpose of those lines on some kinds of chips is to help with the distribution of spices and seasonings. In other words, all those substances that make your chips taste like cheese are mostly stored inside the lines. Plus, the lines make chips crunchier. This item here was also popular in ancient Egypt. What looks like a weird bench was actually a weird type of pillow. Back then, headrests were made from materials like wood, ceramic, and stone. Unlike our comfy pillows today, those ancient ones were used to protect people's hairstyles. That way, their hairdos stayed neat, even though they had a very uncomfortable night. If you've left a pot on the stove and your food burned, once again, take ketchup. Its acids will ease all the scrubbing and help you with grease. Just leave it over the night and you'll be able to wash the pot more easily. Or keep those small packages of ketchup we all end up having from fast food orders in the freezer. The ketchup won't be as hard as an ice cube as it freezes. So it will be good for soothing insect bites or similar things. For 8 centuries, forks were considered cursed and nearly forbidden in the West. The first models were used by the elite in the Middle East and the Byzantine Empire, and they made their way to the West in 1004, thanks to a noblewoman named Maria Agrippina. People were pretty shocked by it, to say the least. So when she passed away just 2 years later, everyone blamed the fork, thinking it was some kind of divine punishment. By the way, its name comes from the Latin word furca, which means pitchfork. Next on our list is Nike's iconic moon shoe, but I'm talking about the unique pattern of its sole. Back in the 1970s, Nike co-founder Bill Bowerman was making waffles for breakfast with his wife when he had a sudden idea to pour a plastic material called polyurethane into the waffle iron. The machine was ruined, of course, but I guess it was worth it since that's how the first Nike waffle trainer was born. I mean, its soul. That clear fluid in gel pens is called the ink follower or stopper fluid. The gel in such pens contains pigment particles dissolved in a polymer solution. The main task of the stopper fluid is to be a barrier to prevent the gel from evaporating or leaking out. Without this transparent fluid, your gel pen wouldn't function. The fluid always stays in one position and doesn't get dissolved with the gel. Neither does it move backwards or flow out of the pen. Let's move on to another favorite snack, popcorn. These days, cinema and popcorn go hand in hand, but it wasn't always this way. In the 1920s and 1930s, movie theater owners were hesitant to allow snacks in their theaters. They were worried about the mess and the crunching noises interfering with movies. Plus, popcorn used to cost only 5 to 10 cents, so they didn't see any financial benefit. But savvy street vendors saw a big chance. So, they got their own popcorn machines and started selling them outside theaters. That's why popcorn probably became the original clandestine movie snack, and theater staff would even have to check if people were hiding bags of it in their coats. Have you ever helped your friends move into a new apartment in a building without an elevator? Then you're gonna love this one. Houses in Amsterdam have hooks on top. This is a medieval invention for pulling stuff up the houses. The simple tech consisting of a wheel and a rope still functions now, centuries later. Why not just use the stairs? Well, if you get inside one of those narrow Amsterdam buildings, you'll see there's hardly enough room to comfortably ascend, and you can forget about even trying to pull a table on top. Back in the medieval ages, pretty much like now, only rich people could afford housing around the canals in the best parts of the city. Those people were mostly traders and used the canals for their business. They stored goods in the same houses they lived in, and with regular floods, they had to find a way to keep the goods dry. And that's why they needed to invent something to lift furniture, goods, boxes, instruments, and food on the upper floors, and pull it in through fully open, wide windows. The lifting tech is one of the reasons the houses in Amsterdam are leaning forward. This position helped keep both the lifted stuff and the walls and windows safe during transportation. They didn't have to touch each other. The gables also assisted in the process and had to be made firm to withstand all the heavy weight. And in case you're wondering what gables are, they're sections of wall between the edges of a dual-pitched roof, typical for Amsterdam. Sticking with old-school fun, it's time to talk about cards. So, have you ever wondered how many times you need to riffle a deck to shuffle it completely? The answer is 7 times, according to math. Even cooler, if you shuffle a deck right, you're probably creating a unique order that's never existed before and never will again. And if you have a deck at hand, check out the 4 Kings. You'll notice that the King of Hearts is the only one without a mustache. He's not special or anything. I mean, he also used to have a mustache, but it was lost in the reproduction of the original design. Your home has more regular things that can do magic tricks. Like if you have a house or a big terrace and want to make a nice flower wall. Try old mattress springs. Just hang them on the wall and let your imagination run wild with flowers. An old flower sifter can still come in handy. For example, as a planter. Even if you don't have one, you might find it at a garage sale or a thrift store. Wallpaper is making its big comeback when it comes to home design. Maybe you can try something different and use some old books with torn pages. You just need to learn the basics of hanging wallpaper, and voila! You get a new cool place for your old books. There's a solution for the remains of an old book. Don't worry. You can have blocks where you'll keep your kitchen knives. It's pretty original, don't you think? Solitaire was probably everyone's go-to game to pass the time back in the 1990s, but its original purpose was far from it. When developers created this game, their idea was to teach people how to use a computer without them even realizing it. For example, dragging and dropping cards into one place helped people learn how to move files into folders. The same goes for Minesweeper, which was designed to help people get used to using a mouse and clicking. Cleaning blinds can be frustrating, but the next time you do it, try doing it with a sock over your hand. Hands are kind of perfectly shaped for getting all those nooks and crannies on the blinds, and the sock will do the rest. Here's something you wouldn't expect. Ice cubes can help you remove gum from carpet, clothing, and hair. Just put your clothes in the sink and add ice cubes. Leave it like that for a while. Ice will freeze the gum, so you can chip it away more easily. If the gum got stuck on the carpet, leave ice cubes right in the critical spot and remove the gum with a butter knife. It's a little bit harder to remove it from hair though, but still possible. Just wrap the ice and parts of your hair with the gum in a washcloth until the gum gets frozen. When you get there, you should be able to break apart the gum and free your hair using your fingers. Or, next time you have to deal with a splinter, just take one ice cube to numb that area before you even start doing anything. You might have noticed that movie theater seats are almost always red. This choice isn't random, it has strategic importance, which is rooted in visual science. The thing is, red light has a longer wavelength. It means that it's the first color to disappear in low light. It allows the audience to concentrate better on the screen once the movie begins. Such a design choice enhances the viewing experience by minimizing distractions. Speed bumps are crucial for pedestrian safety, but at the same time, they can seriously increase car emissions due to the non-stop acceleration and deceleration they cause. To address this issue, some cities like London are testing fake speed bumps. Those are optical illusions painted on the road. They look raised from a driver's perspective, but in reality, they're flat. Authorities hope that this approach will slow down drivers without having a negative impact on the environment. Soda bottles are always filled in such a way that there's some space between the liquid and the cap. That's because soda contains carbon dioxide. It's a gas that can expand once the bottle's heated. If there's no gap in the bottle, it can break because of the pressure building inside. Also, when you open your drink, the gases go out in the form of bubbles, making the drink overflow. The gap helps with this problem too. If you're more into Angry Birds, Candy Crush, and other mobile games, that's totally normal. After all, more people have access to cell phones than to toilets these days. But not many of us stop to think about how disgusting our phones can be. The natural bacteria from our skin and the oils from our hands get transferred to our phones with every touch, swipe, and tap. This makes phones about 10 times dirtier than toilet seats. Yikes! If you're planning a trip across the Atlantic, you should prepare for more than just the jet lag. Depending on where you land, life in Europe can seem a bit unusual. So it's best to do a bit of research before you travel. Speaking of quirky little differences, one of the first things you may notice is the lack of AC. Hope you like fresh air because central air conditioning isn't everywhere like you might be used to. In Europe, you might find that someone's flat, office, or even a full restaurant doesn't have an AC unit. That's because some Europeans rely solely on their windows to get a breeze. However, bigger places like grocery stores and malls usually keep things well ventilated. Water in European restaurants is not always free either, even though this is common practice in the US. Sure, you'll get a fancy glass bottle at most places, but you'll also see it on your bill. More so, if you ask for water, be sure to specify if you'd like it still, because you might get sparkling water instead. Forget about getting a glass full of ice water too. You might get cold water from the fridge, but Europeans don't do the whole tons of ice thing like they do in the US. If you enjoy sightseeing on a budget, you know how helpful those public toilets can be. After walking for hours, it's great to stumble upon a bathroom where you can freshen up a bit. Well, you better have the equivalent of 50 cents or so in your pocket, because in many European countries, you've got to pay to use these public restrooms. Even fast food restaurants might charge you for the privilege. The best workaround is to head to a mall. Their restrooms are usually free. Also, in the US, bathroom stalls often have a gap at the bottom. Some say this design was chosen for cleaning purposes and accessibility. In Europe, however, stalls tend to reach the floor for more privacy. Name days are also kind of a big deal in Europe, despite not being so popular in the US. Each day of the year is like a mini birthday celebration for someone with a specific name. Europeans who follow this tradition see it as a second birthday, and even some take it more seriously than their actual birthday. Even the way we perceive things can be totally different depending on where you're from. Take a 100-year-old building in Europe that's practically brand new, but in the US, it's considered old. Depending on who you ask, some Americans might even consider an object that is 200 years old to be ancient. Europeans reserve this word for something that comes from a time before the Middle Ages. However, when it comes to distances, it's quite the opposite. Europeans might find driving 100 kilometers, or about 60 miles, to be a lot, while for Americans, that's a short trip. It does make sense if you think about it though, because Europe is way more crowded. In fact, the entire European Union is only about half the size of the US. Either way, Europeans are always on the move, whether it's inside their continent or jetting off somewhere else on the planet. It's probably because most European countries are so small by comparison that people grow up thinking it's normal and easy to cross borders all the time. Even the appliances tend to be different when comparing the two regions. Take washing machines, for instance. In Europe, most of them only hook up to cold water, and they load from the front. In the US, it's common to have machines that use both hot and cold water and load from the top. On that note, make sure to research the type of electrical plug used in your European country of choice before traveling. You might find you'll need special adapters to be able to use your phone charger or curling iron while on holiday. Thankfully, most hotels are prepared for these issues and can offer adapters on demand, free of charge. Fridges might seem a bit different too. That's because tiny ones are the norm in Europe, except for large families who invest in bigger fridges and freezers. It's not all bad, especially if you enjoy sharing groceries with roommates, less food wastage, and more frequent trips to the store for fresh food. Might also want to polish your metric system knowledge before heading to Europe too. Everyone there is using meters, grams, liters, and Celsius. Sure, people in the US might learn the metric system in school, but they stick to the other system for their everyday lives, with yards, miles, pounds, and Fahrenheit. Make sure you also double-check dates and times before making any reservations. Europeans write their dates like day, month, year, while Americans flip it to month, day, year. Also, in the US, the week usually begins on Sunday and wraps up on Saturday. But in Europe, it starts on Monday and ends on Sunday. Be on the lookout for the different time format too. In some countries, if someone says it's 14, that translates to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Even advertising might seem a bit different when you first land in Europe. In the US, you might see people wandering around in inflatable costumes on the street to promote local business, but that's a rare sight in Europe. Also, those massive billboard signs you often see along American highways aren't available in most European countries. They're usually against the law because it's believed that drivers should be focused more on the road ahead. And such advertising techniques can be too distracting. Moving on to street names and shopping hours. In North America, especially the USA, it's common to name streets with numbers, like 5th Avenue or 16th Street. But if you head over to Europe, you'll find that streets usually have actual names. In some really rural spots in Europe, you might even stumble upon roads with no names at all. In Europe, there's also a cool tradition of naming roads that connect cities after the city they lead to. Shopping hours in Europe can be a bit confusing too, at times even frustrating. You've probably heard of the siesta in Spain, with some Mediterranean countries having similar customs. It's when shops and businesses take a little afternoon break. Smaller venues in European cities might close up for lunch breaks or have shorter hours on weekends. Some might even stay shut altogether on specific days. It's best to check out the local schedule if you're planning some retail therapy while traveling in Europe. Those shopping hours can really affect your plans and how easily you can get your hands on the stuff you need. While Americans tend to smile more, even to strangers, it can seem a bit unusual to people from other countries. There's a reason behind it though. You see, over the years, the US became this melting pot with people coming in from all over the globe. Being friendly and agreeable became crucial to bridge the gaps created by different cultures and languages. Sometimes it's more helpful to be nice than to be brutally honest. TV watching preferences can also seem different in Europe. Take Norway, for example, where you'll find this cool concept called slow TV. You know how we sometimes zone out in front of a show for hours? Well, Norwegians have turned that into a national sport, if you'd like. Think of it as the visual equivalent of background music. None of us get glued to the screen watching hours of wood burning or knitting marathons. But you might want to check it out when you need some background entertainment that doesn't demand your full attention. Speaking of taking things slow, you might have also heard about a concept called hygge. It's this whole way of life up in the Nordic European countries. Some think these life principles could be the secret to happiness. It's about creating a life that's free from annoying or overwhelming stuff. It's also about prioritizing your relationships and striving to always have a positive attitude.
You know how they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do? Meaning, in Rome, you need to make sure your goldfish has a deluxe bowl to live in. In Nigeria, don't you dare to bring your own wheelbarrow. And perish the thought of adding as much mayo as you want to your dish when you're in France. Yep, bans around the world may be surprising, to say the least. Number 1. You will never see a good old doorknob in Vancouver, Canada. Some time ago, the city changed its building code to require the use of cool and sleek door levers instead. This change is all about making buildings more accessible and easier to use. Not only new buildings are getting a new makeover, even Vancouver's historic City Hall had its fancy Art Deco doorknobs replaced with shiny gold levers. But it's not that you can't legally have it in your house. There isn't a team of doorknob police coming to your house to confiscate your knobs. You can keep them as long as you like. Number 2 comes with a GeoGuessr tip for y'all. If you see this chair in the picture, it means it's 100% not in Basel, Switzerland. It's called a monoblock chair, and it's special. You see, most objects give away clues about when and where they're from, like the shape of electrical outlets or the labels on your shampoo bottle. But the monoblock is context-free. Some people call them one of the world's most perfectly designed objects, while others say the homogeneous nature of the chair is disturbing and the real evil of globalization. But why is it banned in Basel? Turns out the authorities just want the city to be pretty, and the chair design isn't to their liking. Right, if you want to keep one in your backyard, feel free. But they've been a big no in public spaces since 2008. 3. If you were ever thinking of bringing a wheelbarrow to Nigeria, I've got some news for you. Don't even try. Should you need it for some reason during your stay in Nigeria, just buy one there when you arrive. The authorities won't let you bring your imported wheelbarrow across the border. Why? Well, they're all about supporting their own manufacturing industry, so they want to give their local wheelbarrow makers a chance to shine. At number 4, we've got China, where the authorities decided to put a stop to time travel. Wait a minute, it's not what you think. No time travel machine has been invented. The ban is on TV shows and movies. By the way, it's not something new. The law was introduced in the early 2010s. Apparently, the big shots in charge want to keep things real and are not too keen on distorting historical events. They say some scripts are getting a bit too wild, making up myths, promoting superstition, and disrespecting the country's past. 5. Coffee pods. They've become super popular because they make brewing coffee so easy. But Hamburg, Germany doesn't seem to be a fan of those pods. Around 8 years ago, they took a stand by banning plastic coffee pods from authorities' offices. These little pods are made of various materials, making recycling a real challenge. While it's true that these coffee capsules can create a lot of problems, they're still loved by many. In fact, they've become a big hit in the US and Europe, making up a chunk of the coffee market. Hamburg is hoping to lead the way in showing people just how wasteful these pods really are. Number 6. Chewing gum. It has been banned in Singapore since 1992. The ban was put in place to stop people from sticking gum in all sorts of weird places, like subway doors, lock cylinders, and elevator buttons. Yuck. But costly train shenanigans were the last straw for the authorities. The ban was put in place after some serious gum incidents on the Mass Rapid Transit or MRT trains in the late 80s. Some mischievous pranksters have been gumming up the works on MRT trains by sticking chewing gum on the door sensors. That caused a sticky situation and messed up train services. And there you have it, chewing gum got completely banned. Now, just a note here, yep, these are gums prescribed for therapeutic or dental reasons. And yep, they're still allowed. Also, don't get this whole ban wrong. It's not illegal to chew gum in Singapore. So if you come there as a tourist, you can bring in a little gum for personal use if you're traveling. Just do not stick it under this nice park bench, okay? What will create you a ton of troubles, though, is importing and selling chewing gum. Iceland is number 7 in our ban hit parade. Back in 1994, Reykjavik was like, no dogs allowed. It wasn't because they were all about cats, it was to stop this nasty tapeworm from spreading. The disease was serious business, causing all sorts of health problems. But don't worry, dogs are cool now as long as they follow the rules. Nowadays in Reykjavik, it's all about the cats. They're everywhere, roaming the streets like they, own the place. You can't walk 2 steps without seeing a furry little friend begging for attention. These Reykjavik kitties are so popular that they even have their own Facebook page. People love them, and some even carry around treats just in case they come across a friendly feline. And since there aren't many threats to cats in Iceland, they're thriving. 8. The Philippines. Now this one is really weird. Singing My Way in karaoke bars is sort of banned in this country. This seemingly harmless song has been linked to some pretty serious consequences, like fistfights and even people's early demise. No one knows the exact number of lethal cases caused by this song, but there have been at least a handful of incidents in the last 10 years. The song's lyrics, which can come off as a bit arrogant and prideful, seem to rile people up when sung in a not-so-great way. This has led some karaoke bars to unofficially ban the song to prevent any craziness from breaking out. 9. Hey, have you heard about Japan's Metabo law? It's all about measuring waist sizes to tackle obesity. It was introduced in 2008, and the idea was that if companies and local authorities didn't meet the goals, they would face financial penalties. The Ministry of Health believed this campaign would help prevent various health conditions. So, every year, people aged 40 to 75 had to get their waist measured. Employers and local authorities needed to make sure at least 65% of people participated. The goal was to reduce Japan's obesity rates by 25% by 2015, and if they hadn't made it, they would have gotten slapped with a fine. Did it work? Well, in 2024, there are only 4.5% of people who reportedly have weight issues in Japan. Number 10, and we're back to Canada. So if you catch someone in there counting out pennies in line, you can totally have some fun with them, legally speaking, of course. According to the Canadian Currency Act, there's a limit to the number of pennies you can use in a transaction, 25 to be exact. So if someone tries using 26 coins, you can play sheriff and send them to coin jail. Snatch up their pennies as evidence. Yeah. 11. A condiment-regulated country here. Apparently in France, they're cracking down on condiments in public schools. They're trying to make meals healthier for students. The rule is that you can't just go crazy with mayo, ketchup, and vinaigrette anymore. They have to be served according to the dish. Finally, Italy. In Rome, you can't keep your goldfish in a boring old glass bowl. Nope, that's considered cruel, because those little guys need their oxygen flow. Plus, if you keep them in a bowl for too long, they might go blind. Also, you can't give away goldfish as prizes. The law has a whole subsection about it. So if you're planning on bringing a goldfish home from your next trip to Rome, make sure you've got a fancy tank ready for them. And thank you for watching. Has your trusty phone ever let you down? More times than you can count? It always seems to run out of juice at the worst possible moment. You forget to top it off, or you end up in an area with no service. And let's not forget how useless it can be in an emergency, like during a tornado when there's no signal. But fear not, there's a cool project called Meshtastic that uses a wireless protocol to keep you connected with your friends. It's like magic, using a radio band called LoRa for encrypted messages. It works in literally any external conditions. Plus, each device can act as a repeater to extend the range of your messages. Perfect for disaster recovery or just keeping tabs on your kids. For less than $25, you can get a starter kit to join the Meshtastic fun. Add a GPS module and a battery and you've got your own private channel. No more stressing when your kids are out and about. You can instantly see where they are. And if you're feeling daring, you can even send low bitrate audio through the airwaves. Now I'll bet there's a bunch of things your car just can't do. Can it lean into corners? Yeah, I don't think so. What about adjusting its own width to park easier? I know your answer is no, but let me show you something then. This cutie is called Trigo EV, and even though it looks like a futuristic stroller, it's actually a fully functional quadricycle you can totally drive. It was initially created for delivery and car-sharing purposes, but it turned out cooler and way more comfy than expected. If you ever find yourself driving this electric, let's call it a car, shall we? You won't need anything else but a tiny patch of land to park it. It has a maximum speed of 56 miles per hour. Not bad for such a tiny car. In cruise driving mode, it measures 58 inches wide, but a mechanism allows the front wheels to retract toward the chassis, reducing the width to 34 inches. The electric four-wheeler weighs slightly over 1,000 pounds, with a total permissible mass of around 1,600 pounds. Right, it all looks futuristic and fun, but I feel safer in good old SUVs. Ever wished you had an extra arm to help you out when your hands are full? Scientists have figured out how to control a robotic third arm using just your diaphragm muscle. It's as easy as pie, if pie is easy. This awesome discovery was made in Switzerland as part of the super cool Third Arm Project. They had volunteers wearing exoskeleton arms and a sensor belt to track their diaphragm movements, all while navigating a virtual world in VR. After over 150 sessions with 61 volunteers, most people found it a breeze to control 3 arms at once. They could even multitask, chatting and looking around while using the third arm. Now recently, a new fully autonomous delivery service with fast food joints was launched. This means no people involved from pickup to drop-off. It's called Flytrex, and it's been delivering using drones since 2017, teaming up with big names in retail and food to bring you quick and cheap deliveries. They're currently flying high in North Carolina and Texas, with plans to expand nationwide. Their goal is to make deliveries faster and cheaper using their trusty drones. Your order could be at your door in as little as 5 minutes after it's ready. Now, that's speedy. Flytrex got a huge increase in customers and even FAA approval for long-range drone deliveries in 2023. Partnering with big brands like Unilever and Papa John's, they're definitely on a roll. More a pizza roll. The Monocab Owl project is all about making a super cool monorail vehicle for getting around in rural areas sustainably. The Monocab is a clever little autonomous monorail vehicle that can balance itself on a regular rail without any extra support. Its slim design allows it to zip along single-track lines in both directions, perfect for some unique rail mobility ideas. It's like a fun service-on-demand option that's way more exciting than your usual transportation choices, especially for reviving old railway lines in rural areas. Everyone on the Monocab Owl team is stoked about shaking things up in rural mobility. Right now, there's a lack of good, eco-friendly and budget-friendly options for getting around in less populated areas. Reactivating old railway lines is a great start, but we need some fresh ideas to really make it work. That's where these small, self-driving rail vehicles come in. They bring together the best of rail travel with on-demand booking and a cool digital navigation system. Look here! Can you identify what this weird-looking object is? It's a mobile solar container with foldable solar panels for green energy on the go. Just pop out the panels, unfold them, and you're good to power up equipment and properties with green energy wherever you are. The solar container can extend up to almost 400 feet in length when fully unfolded and has 240 solar panels. It's perfect for both on- and off-grid uses, like rescue missions and outdoor events. And it only takes about 5 hours to set up. Easy peasy. There's even an automatic conveyor system for easy folding and unfolding of the panels. Just push a button and start harnessing solar power. SolarKant, the Austrian company that invented it, estimates this mobile solar container can power around 32 households. Virtual meetings are all the rage nowadays. Remote chats are cool, but let's be real, they're no match for face-to-face meetings. We can see each other, hear each other, but it's still pretty flat and 2D. Or, shall I say it was flat? The thing is, HoloBox from HoloConnects is bringing holograms to life. This super cool device lets you project a life-size hologram of yourself or anyone else inside a funky box. Just plug it in, connect it to the internet, and voila! You've got a hologram ready to go. You can even connect multiple boxes to showcase big stuff like cars or anything else. Now, holograms are a massive game changer for remote communication. Imagine chatting with someone and seeing them in 3D like they're right there with you. Plus, it adds a personal touch to presentations, training sessions, ads, you name it. What do you think? Does this look cool or creepy? Check out the latest creation from a rockstar team of engineers at NASA Ames Research Center and KBR, a robot system that can autonomously build structures using lattice blocks. Their paper in Science Robotics explains how these robots and blocks work together to create amazing things. Designed for future lunar missions, these robots can lay down foundations for shelters before astronauts arrive. 3 robots work together to carry and connect blocks with twisty edges, similar to assembling IKEA furniture. They have already built impressive structures, like a shelter made of 256 blocks in just over 4 days. Imagine what they could do on the moon. Experience the interactive pearl sculpture by Breakfast. No food implied, just the name of the company. It's placed on a huge cruise ship called the Icon of the Seas. The stunning creation imitates the ocean's vibes, with rolling waves and shooting stars, each tile placed in a neat Fibonacci sequence. Using real-time data from the Caribbean, this sculpture changes constantly to match the current weather and tides, bringing the ocean to life before your eyes. Yeah, this invention won't change your life, but it's meant to nurture your soul. Have you heard about the Seattle-based startup Jetoptera? They're developing innovative vertical takeoff and landing vehicles with bladeless propulsion systems, promising a future of quiet, safe, and fast urban flight. By 2050, 70% of the population will be living in cities, leading to crowded streets. But Jetoptera's fluidic propulsion system offers a solution, using air pressure technology for silent operation. Jetoptera is also working on a high-speed VTOL for the U.S. Air Force, with plans for passenger-carrying prototypes by 2026. Well, that's exciting.
Some men wear shoes with hidden heel lifts to look taller. Such shoes can make a person up to 6 inches taller. They look like regular shoes, but inside they have this extra insert. Sometimes, such an insert is glued down. Sometimes it's removable, and you can choose the height you need yourself. When the Titanic hit the iceberg and sank sometime later, the Atlantic Ocean was around 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which means the water was below its freezing point. No wonder so many passengers didn't make it. Some birds have a row of bristles protruding from the edges of their eyelids. Those bristles can probably be called eyelashes, but while human eyelashes are modified hairs meant to protect the eye, bird eyelashes are modified feathers. Identical twins don't actually have the same fingerprints, so you can't blame your misdeeds on your sibling after all. Different factors during development in the womb, like the position of the womb, umbilical cord length, and the rate of finger growth, impact fingerprints. Earth's rotation speed is changing. It's slowing down right now while we're talking. It means that, on average, the length of the day gets 1.8 seconds longer every century. 600 million years ago, a day lasted a mere 21 hours. Most world maps are wrong. On the majority of maps, they still use the Mercator projection, which was the first developed in 1569. But this method is very inaccurate and makes Alaska look as large as Brazil, while in reality, it's 5 times smaller. As for Greenland, it looks 14 times larger than it actually is. For a map to be precise, it would need to be life-sized and round, not flat. Ants don't have lungs. They breathe through tiny openings known as spiracles. An ant may have 9 or 10 of those on each side of the body, depending on the species. The average color of the universe is poetically called cosmic latte. In a 2002 study, scientists discovered that the light coming from other galaxies averaged into a beige color that was very close to white, just like the drink beloved by many. There is such a thing as minus decibels. The quietest place on Earth is Microsoft's anechoic chamber in Redmond, USA. The level of sound there is minus 20.6 decibels. Such chambers are built out of heavy concrete and bricks and are placed on springs to stop vibrations from entering the chamber through the floor. Bananas are radioactive. Wait, where did you go? It's not that bad. Bananas are rich in potassium, so each banana is slightly radioactive due to the natural isotope potassium-40. On the other hand, your body contains around 16 milligrams of potassium-40, so you're actually about 280 times more radioactive than that poor banana. And in any case, your body gets rid of that excess potassium-40 from a banana within several hours. There's simply no such thing as a straight line. You just need to zoom in close enough and you're bound to spot some irregularities. Even a laser light beam is a bit curved. In emergencies, fish form orderly lines. For example, when evacuating through narrow spaces in dangerous situations, school of neon tetrafish queue so that they don't crash into one another or clog up the line. Scientists think that this behavior means that fish can respect social rules even in emergency situations, unlike us humans. Hippos can't swim. These animals have large bones. These bones are so big and dense that it makes hippos barely buoyant at all. So these animals don't swim. Instead, they perform something like a slow-motion gallop on the riverbed. Hippos can also sleep underwater thanks to a reflex that allows them to rise to the surface, take a breath, and sink back down to the bottom without waking up. Lego bricks can withstand compression better than concrete. A regular plastic Lego brick can support the weight of 375,000 other bricks before it breaks. Theoretically, it could allow you to build a tower more than 2 miles in height. But if we decide to scale this up to house-sized bricks, the price would be exorbitant. If you ever go to space, you can take your yo-yo with you. In 2012, NASA astronaut Don Petit took a yo-yo on board the International Space Station and used it to show some tricks. You see, a yo-yo mostly relies on the laws of conservation of angular momentum to perform tricks. And if you keep the string taut, these laws apply in microgravity too. There's a theory that claims that we sweat when we're anxious to alert the brains of other people that they're primed for that danger that's making us feel anxiety. Brain scans have revealed that when you sniff the sweat produced by a panicking person, regions of the brain responsible for emotional and social signals light up. And when you are anxious, your sympathetic nervous system produces hormones, including adrenaline, which switches on your sweat glands. There are rainbows on Venus, and they're called glories. A glory looks like a series of colored concentric rings and is caused by the interference of light waves inside droplets rather than the process of reflection, refraction, and dispersion of light, which produces rainbows. Protons look like bagels, spheres, peanuts, and rugby balls. In other words, protons come in different shapes and sizes. Their appearance changes based on the speed of quarks, smaller particles within them. If you look at the moon while being in the southern hemisphere, it will seem to be upside down, and the man on the moon will look more like a rabbit. You will remember more of your dreams if you sleep badly and wake up many times throughout the night. You're also more likely to remember your dream if someone or something wakes you up in the middle of it. Dogs tilt their heads while listening to people to pinpoint familiar words like walkies more effectively. It also helps them to understand the tone of your voice better. There's also an idea that if a dog doesn't tilt its head often, it's because it relies more on sight and less on sound. Mirrors facing each other won't produce infinite reflections. Each next reflection will be darker than the previous one, and eventually, they will fade into invisibility. Mirrors absorb just a fraction of the energy of the light falling on them, so the total number of reflections mirrors can produce is around several hundred. You can smell ants, since many species of these insects produce strong-smelling chemicals when they feel threatened or angry, or when they're being squished. Trapjaw ants release a chocolatey smell when they're crushed, and citronella ants give off a lemony odor when they're threatened. Giraffes hum when they want to communicate with each other. Researchers think that this low-frequency humming might be a form of contact call between individuals that have been separated from their herd. It can also help giraffes find each other in the dark. But the coolest thing about these magnificent animals? Some scientists think that they could sleep talk too. And a cool bonus story for you. About a marathon runner who took over 50 years to finish the race. Japanese marathoner runner Shizo Kanekuri was selected as one of the 2 athletes that Japan could send to the 1912 Stockholm Olympics. But Kanekuri shockingly disappeared during the marathon race. It turned out that after a rough 18-day-long trip to Stockholm, first by ship and then by train, the man was exhausted. During the race, he stopped running because his condition simply didn't allow him to run further. The athlete stumbled into a nearby garden party where he drank orange juice and stayed for a while to recover. Later, Kanekuri was so embarrassed by his failure that he returned to Japan without notifying anyone, including race officials. So, Swedish authorities considered him missing for 50 years before finding out that he was peacefully living in his home country. In 1967, the athlete was offered the opportunity to finish his run. He accepted. 54 years, 8 months, 6 days, 5 hours, 32 minutes, and 20.3 seconds after he started the race, he completed the marathon. It was a long trip. Along the way, the man got married, had 6 kids, and 10 grandchildren.
You see these blades? They have notched corners to make your cutting experience smoother. Ooh! The front edge notch helps with separating blades during manufacturing, while the trailing edge notch helps the blade glide easily. And a fun fact, that notch on the front also helps you spot unused sections of the blade. Just a little visual indicator to make your life easier. When it comes to silver versus black blades, they're both made from the same stuff. But black blades are sharper and are better suited for cutting through tough materials, while silver blades strike a balance between cutting power and durability. If you want that extra cutting oomph, go for black. Oh, almost forgot. The only thing those blades aren't meant to cut is food. It has a rust-proofing oil coating, which is not safe for humans. Check this one out. It's totally giving me childhood vibes. Now, I remember my grandma having tomato-shaped pincushions just like this, and sometimes they would look more like a salad, with a little pepper thrown in there. Well, believe it or not, this salad actually has a purpose. The tomato keeps your pins in place, while the pepper keeps them sharp. Those peppers are filled with sand, which helps keep your pins nice and sharp. And it's not just sand. Crushed walnuts can also be used to keep your pins in tip-top shape. Now look at this multiple pocket tool and this little hook on it. It's a bit of a mystery, but it's actually pretty handy. I counted at least 4 different applications. 1. You can use it to carry all sorts of awkward stuff, like camping gear or heavy parcels. 2. Need to twist some wire or play around with knots? The parcel hook has got you covered. 3. This hook can save the day with those stubborn zippers, like the ones on your luggage. 4. It's great for pretending to be a budget version of Captain Hook. If you know more applications, let me know in the comments. Apple users, with this feature, you'll never get laundry surprises again. Now, I bet you've had this situation at least once in your life. You wash your stuff, and when you take it out of the washing machine, the size seems to only fit your cat. Your iPhone camera can actually translate those funky laundry symbols for you. There are 2 requirements though. You must have iOS 17 and your phone must be in English. Take a photo of the care label, go to the Photos app, and see the details of the image. Everything will be automatically decoded and explained to you. Now, many toasters come with nifty removable crumb trays at the bottom. It's super important to give these trays a good clean every now and then to keep your toaster running smoothly and avoid any potential fire hazards. Just pop them out, shake out the crumbs, and you're good to go. Where you shake them out is up to you. Those little compartments on your gas pump aren't just for show. They're actually there to hold your cap while you're filling up. This nifty feature keeps things tidy and prevents any spills or drips on the handle. So, say goodbye to messy refueling experiences and hello to a cleaner pump. Plus, it makes the whole process way more convenient and efficient. Now, I'll bet your oven gets so greasy and dirty sometimes that you can even hear it oink. Just kidding. I know you're a tidy person. Anyway, if you're looking for a way to bring your kitchen cleaning to a whole new level, here's a tip for you. Most oven doors have handy latches that let you pop the door off for easy cleaning, saving your poor back from the strain. When you're draining noodles or potatoes, there's no need to bother transferring everything to a colander in the sink. Just throw the colander right into the pot, hold it down, and pour the liquid out. It makes life so much easier, especially when you want to save that starchy water for recipes. It's a must for authentic pasta, by the way. So let's say you've snagged this gem at a thrift store a while back for just under $1. It's seen better days, serving as an ashtray, but you decide it's time to give it a new lease on life. Here's the lowdown on how to make it shine again. Mix up a solution of boiling water, baking soda, and table salt in a bowl lined with aluminum foil. Let the piece soak for about 15 minutes and repeat this process 3 times. In between soaks, gently scrub any rough spots with a microfiber cloth. After the final soak, dry the piece off and rub on some toothpaste, baking soda, and peroxide. Buff out any remaining tarnish with a clean, dry microfiber cloth. Rinse it off, and now your piece is practically gleaming like a mirror. These aluminum foil boxes have nifty little tabs on the sides that make it super easy to grab a sheet without any hassle. It's like a fancy little bonus that makes the product a breeze and ensures you'll have a smooth sailing experience every time. Manual can openers often come with a handy built-in feature, also known as a bottle opener. It's like getting 2 tools in one. But did you know that this bottle opener actually has another useful function? It can help you loosen those stubborn, hard-to-open jars. Simply lift the lid slightly at a couple of points with the bottle opener, and then watch it as it effortlessly twists right off. Yeah! Okay, I just found that, apparently, you're supposed to save the first and last slices of a loaf of sliced bread for last. It's like a bread hack or something. Apparently, those end pieces help keep the rest of the bread fresher for longer, and you shouldn't eat them until you've devoured the rest of the loaf. So, next time you're making a sandwich, save those heel slices for the very end. Even bread eating needs a good strategy. Now look at those blue levers on the top rack of your dishwasher. I was curious about them too, and it turns out they're actually water bottle sprayers. They help to ensure that your bottles get a thorough cleaning and rinse during the wash cycle. Many vegetable peelers have those little scoops on top for taking out the eyes from potatoes. And here's a cool tip. You can actually use vegetable peelers in both directions to peel faster. But most people just stick to one direction. When using yellow mustard, make sure to push the lid of the bottle all the way open until you hear a satisfying click. This way the lid will stay securely in place and won't get in the way when you're dispensing the mustard onto your food. It's a simple step that can make your condiment experience hassle-free and enjoyable. So there. You know that little hole at the end of your pot or pan? Well, it's not just for show. You can actually use it as a handy holder for your forks and spoons. Next time you're cooking up a storm in the kitchen, just pop your utensils in that convenient little hole and keep them close at hand. Okay, just a heads up to remember to switch the direction of your ceiling fan for the changing weather, and to give it a good clean too. I've seen that a lot of folks found it helpful before to reverse the fan's direction by flipping a switch for different seasons. So this is just a friendly reminder to go ahead and do it again, pushing hot air down and pulling cold air up. When you're chowing down for some pizza, just tear off the top of the box and use it as a big old plate. You can even rip the box in half and fold it to save some leftovers for later. Well, that's it for today. What, you want to know more cool facts? Sure, but you'll have to subscribe and hit the bell to get more videos. I'm waiting. Go ahead. So listen, if you don't want your next barbecue party to end up at the emergency room, you might want to get rid of that wire brush you used to clean the grill. Over 100 people have to seek medical help because of it every year. Those brass and steel bristles easily separate from the brush and stick to cooked food that ends up in your mouth. With each swallow, they go deeper and deeper. They can poke into or puncture the lining of your mouth, throat, and esophagus, or somewhere else down your intestinal tract. The symptoms this causes could be signs of many different conditions, and because of their tiny size, the bristles are really tricky for doctors to spot. So you can lose the precious time to solve the problem at an early stage. In some cases, one ER visit can solve the problem, but if the bristle moves into deeper tissues, say into your neck, chest, or abdomen, well, it could start an infection, and you'd need some complex surgery to save your life. That was the case for a 63-year-old lady in Michigan. She was eating a hot dog grilled by her husband, and she felt something was wrong from the first bite. She could barely swallow the food because of an unusually painful sore throat and had to see the doctors for help. They sent her home after an inspection, but the symptoms only got worse and worse. A CT scan several months later showed the problem was some tiny metallic object that looked like a piece of hair at the back of her throat. The doctors were able to remove it during surgery. So, to play it safe, take good care of your wire grill brush and inspect it before putting food on it. If you see any loose or dangling wire bristles, get rid of them. If this sounds like too much work, just toss that brush altogether. There are some safe alternatives to it, like wooden panels, pumice stone, nylon bristle brush, or liquid grill cleaner. You can also roll a piece of aluminum foil into a ball and use grill tongs to hold it while you're scrubbing your dirty grill grates. Cooking pros say an onion cut in half can also do the job. The caterpillar that arrived at your barbecue party as an uninvited guest might seem cute and harmless, but not all of them are safe to pick up and play with. There are several types of venomous caterpillars in the US alone that can give you a hard time. Any brightly colored caterpillar that has a spine, bristles, or looks fuzzy could be venomous, and you're better off not touching it. Many caterpillars are equipped with hairs or spines, which are connected to poisonous glands. They often hide on the underside of the leaf, so you could easily miss it. So, when you're doing some work in the garden, it's a good idea to wear gloves and clothes with long sleeves. Your skin will thank you for it. If you get stung by accident, use any sticky tape to remove the hair or spines, and then just wash the affected spot with soap and water. If you plan to go swimming or boating to cool down after the party, remember that algal blooms aren't just a freaky splash of color in the water, but a real problem. They're toxic and can cause a lot of trouble for you and your pets. The symptoms will be less than pleasant, and will involve you spending a great deal of time in the bathroom. Algae bloom means there are plenty of bacteria in the water, so don't swim in it and don't drink the water, no matter how thirsty you are after all the swimming. And if you happen to get some ingested water on your skin, take a long shower with clean water immediately. The media should report cases of dangerous algae blooms in your area, so make sure to check it before you hit the nearest lake. Wild parsnip might not appear in your summer nightmares, but this yellow-flowered plant can do some really mean things to your body. It contains a substance called solarant, and when you accidentally touch it and then enjoy a walk in the sun, the effect it will leave on your skin will be as nasty as the name Sorolent. And you could have dark red or brownish discoloration on your skin for months after your unwanted rendezvous with the plant. It's mostly active and mischievous between May and July, so watch out. Alright, a garden hose must be completely safe as, unlike the grill brush, it doesn't have any small metallic parts, right? Well, when you leave it hanging out in direct sunlight, the water inside can heat up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. If you spray someone with water this hot, their skin won't love it. It's especially dangerous for youngsters and pets. So, if you see someone blissfully unaware, grab the hose, take it from them by force if needed, and let the water run for a few moments before you let anyone play with the hose. It's for their own good. The intense sun can also heat up all the bad chemicals the hose itself contains, like lead and phthalates. So, check what yours is made of and replace it with a safer version that's labeled lead-free or drinking water safe if you plan to use the water for drinking or playing. And if you already have a safe version, but suddenly smell a terrible odor, it could be the algae and bacteria that just love stagnant water. If it comes into contact with your skin, or you swallow it by accident, you could have some serious health problems. The best you can do is replace the hose. And yes, make sure you keep it in a cool, shaded area and drain it well after every use. Now, you're never too old to love the trampolines, but the trampoline might not love you back and give you a spinal injury or broken bones. Almost 100,000 injuries like this with young users happen every year because they're so easy to fall from or land in the worst possible way during a somersault or a flip. The biggest risk of trampoline trouble is when more than one person is using this fun contraption. Nearly 75% of all accidents with trampolines happen when two jumping youngsters crash into one another. And no, some netting or padding really can't save the day. If you want to keep things safe, make sure there's always only one person at a time on the trampoline. You're going to need to install shock-absorbing pads that completely cover the trampoline's metal frame, springs, and hooks. If you see any signs of the padding getting too old, like tears and fraying, you need to replace it immediately. Make sure the trampoline stands on level ground and isn't too close to other structures and trees. A slide in your backyard, no matter if it's made of metal or plastic, can turn into a frying pan under the sun and can heat up to 189 degrees Fahrenheit. So, before you jump on it or let someone else do it, check the temperature of the whole thing top to bottom. And even when your little sister or someone else you love is begging you to go on a ride with them, don't do it. The slide is designed for one person of a certain size. When the two of you end up tandem sliding, the smaller leg can get caught up between the bigger leg and the edge of the slide. The speed will also increase, and it can lead to all sorts of drama. Finally, no matter how tempting it feels in the hot months, don't walk barefoot on that beautiful lawn in the park or even in your own garden. You never know what's hiding in the grass, and if you step on something sharp, like a rusty nail hiding in the grass, you'll get yourself into a lot of trouble. Flip-flops aren't the best idea for everyday summer shoes either. They rarely come with arch support and can make you take shorter steps and put more stress on your body. It's just not good for your feet, joints, and muscles. Otherwise, have a great summer! Fun fact: Olympic synchronized swimmers, now renamed artistic swimmers, don't usually wear swim caps. When they compete, they put Knox gelatin in their hair. The result resembles unflavored Jell-O. Athletes mix the gelatin with water and it turns into a gooey mixture. After that, they comb and brush the substance into their hair, pull it into a bun, and put a headpiece over it. When it all dries, it becomes really hard, and swimmers' hair doesn't fall out when they swim. They often add glitter and other decorations to make their hairstyles even more exciting. The blanket octopus is called this way because of the females of the species. They're supersized and rarely seen. They have a long, fleshy cape which encloses their tentacles. Female octopuses are large, up to 6.5 feet in length. Thanks to this cape, they look even larger and much more intimidating to potential predators. But the coolest thing about these creatures is that the male blanket octopus grows to be a mere 1 inch in length, which is smaller than a walnut. This makes the blanket octopus a species with the largest gender size difference in the entire animal kingdom. Red Bull has published a video showing the so-called world's fastest camera drone following a racing car around Silverstone's Grand Prix circuit. The Dutch Drone Gods are a company that custom-built the manually piloted drone designed specifically for keeping up with cars moving at speeds of over 186 miles per hour. It took more than a year for Red Bull and the Dutch Drone Gods to create a drone that could accelerate twice as fast as a Formula One car, reaching this breakneck speed in just 4 seconds. The drone's top speed is almost 220 miles per hour. Recently, scientists have concluded that water might not be wet. You see, wetness is usually defined as a liquid's ability to maintain contact with a solid surface. It means that the water itself isn't wet, but it can make other objects wet. Okay.
Wow.
The Maldives 1,000 rupiah banknote has captured the attention of people from all over the world and received a lot of praise for its stunning design. The note features the striped pattern of a skin of a majestic whale shark and a green sea turtle against a vibrant blue backdrop. It's already been called the prettiest currency in the world. Now, wearing a tie might be more dangerous than you think. It can reduce blood flow to the brain by 7.5%, making you dizzy and nauseous and causing headaches. Ties can also increase the pressure in your eyes if it's too tight. Plus, they're great at transporting germs. Gotta think again whether following that dress code is so necessary. A young girl from Washington broke a Guinness World Record by putting on 45 sweaters at a local library. Sophia Hayden pulled on each sweater individually all the way down to her waist before moving on to the next one. It was done to comply with Guinness World Record rules. She also had to make sure that none of those sweaters was ripped, since damaged items didn't count. As a result, she broke the record for the most sweaters worn at once. The previous record was 40 sweaters, and it was set by a French 11-year-old boy in 2022. Later, Sophia's mother admitted that it had been tricky to gather enough sweaters for that attempt. The sweaters were then donated to charity. Now, it was Louis XIV of France who is believed to have brought salt and pepper together, forming the basis for modern cooking. At that time, only rich people could afford to add pepper to their meals, and the king liked his food to be lightly seasoned with just salt and pepper. Our sun produces a sound, but sadly, we can't hear it. It's emitted in the form of pressure waves, and their wavelength is measured in hundreds of miles. It means they're far beyond the range of human hearing. Now, while we're on the topic of space, let's discuss the fact that our solar system has a wall surrounding it. Well, kind of. It's called the heliopause, and it's the region of space where solar wind isn't hot enough to push back the wind of particles coming from distant stars. That's why this region is often considered the boundary between the solar system and interstellar space. Another space fact for you: comets smell like rotten eggs. I know, ew. Other smells that might surround them are those of burning matches and even almonds. That's because of the traces of hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen cyanide found in the makeup of some comets. In 2016, promotional postcards were even made, carrying the pungent scent of a comet. Now, in any career field, the average worker is productive for around 60% of their working time each day. But if we talk about office workers, this percentage drops drastically. One study determined that the average office worker is productive for a mere 2 hours and 23 minutes per day. The thing is, employees are interrupted in general every 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And it takes people a whopping 23 minutes to get refocused after an interruption. It means that employees get 3 minutes of work done for every 26 minutes they spend at their workplace. Unbelievable. No wonder that statistically, people working remotely are much more productive. Scottish soccer team Inverness Caledonian Thistle Football Club is known for using cameras with AI ball tracking to live stream their matches on YouTube. Well, once, in a 2020 match against R United to be precise, when a camera repeatedly tracked an official's bald head, mistaking it for the soccer ball. Uh-oh, what a blunder. Now, speaking of sports, football teams wearing red kits reportedly play better. Accordingly, the color of your attire affects not only how you're perceived by others, but also how you feel. A review of football matches in the past 55 years has shown that teams wearing red consistently play better in home matches than teams dressed in any other color. One more awesome story connected to sports. In order to draw some of the most wanted criminals out of hiding, the U.S. Marshals Service once came up with an offer crooks couldn't resist. They invited them to the Super Bowl. In December 1985, more than 100 people came to the Washington Convention Center after receiving a letter informing them that they had won tickets to the largest sporting event in the country. According to the invites, they had been selected randomly from a clearinghouse list of D.C. residents and were supposed to receive 2 tickets to the Redskins vs. Bengals game that day. But to get in, they had to come to a pre-game party to collect their tickets. And guess what? The plan worked like a charm. Over 100 criminals were arrested, which made Operation Flagship one of the most successful in U.S. police history. Now moving on. Your brain is eating itself non-stop. Wait, don't panic yet. It's a totally normal process known as phagocytosis. During this process, cells envelop and consume smaller cells or molecules to remove them from the system. Luckily, phagocytosis isn't harmful. It actually helps preserve your gray matter, keeping it in top shape. Boy, I could use more of that. Giraffes are 30 times more likely to get hit by lightning than people. Between 1996 and 2010, there were just 5 documented lightning strikes on giraffes that ended tragically. But if we consider the fact that the population of the species was just 140,000 at that time, it makes for around 0.003 lightning casualties per 1,000 giraffes each year. This is 30 times more than the number of tragic accidents involving lightning strikes that happen to people. Animals experience time differently from us humans. To smaller animals, the world around them moves more slowly. For instance, salamanders and lizards experience time not as fast as, let's say, dogs and cats. All because of the perception of time, which depends on how quickly the brain can process incoming information. And finally, snails do have teeth, between 1,000 and 12,000 to be precise. These teeth aren't like ours though, so there's no need to picture snails with silly toothy grins. Snails' minuscule